Good. Then
One, two.
Let me go bend over there for the lady.
Sonia, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Mario.
What side are you? Thank you, Manir.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Mario.
Thank you.
Recording in progress.
The House Chairperson.
There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Honorable member, please take your seat. Order. Order, honorable members. May I request the Chief Whip of the MK Party just to ensure that the members settle down. I don't know what all the excitement is all about. Please calm down. Honorable Minister of Water and Sanitation. Honorable Minister of Water and Sanitation, you can exchange pleasantries outside with the new members. Honorable members, will you take your allocated seats, please? Thank you. Honorable members, before we proceed with today's business, I wish to announce that the vacancies which occurred in the National Assembly, owing to the resignations of Mr. N.F. Shavambu and Mr. M. Manyi, has been filled with effect from 27 August 2024 by the nominations of Mr. M. N. Paulson and Mr. S. Tambo, respectively. There's the honorable members. Thank you. Welcome, honorable members. Order. Order. Order, honorable members. The vacancies which occurred owing to the loss of membership of the National Assembly by Mr. L.S. Gadebe, Mr. M.S. Zungu, Mr. T.S. Mnyadu, Ms. N.M. Gasa, Mr. L.G. Shangase in terms of Section 47, subsection 3, paragraph C of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, 1996 have been filled with immediate effect from 23rd of August 2024 by the nominations of Mr. L. Montana, Mr. G.E. Kobane, Mr. S.I. Gama, Mr. B. Molefi, and Mr. T.I. Gamede, respectively. Welcome, honorable members. Order. Order, honorable members. Lastly, the vacancies which occurred. Order, honorable members. The vacancies which occurred owing to the unavailability of Mr. T. Kaba, Ms. N.P. Kanyile, and Mr. H. Mtuang to take up their seats have been filled with effect from 23rd of August 2024 by the nominations of Mr. T.S. Nyadu, Mr. N.M. Gaza, and Mr. M. Manyi, respectively. Welcome, honorable members. Thank you. Order, honorable members. Order. The members have made and subscribed the oath and affirmation with the speaker, and I wish to welcome you. Honorable members, please take note of the following announcement. I wish to announce that in terms of item 12, paragraph 4 of the Code of Ethical Conduct and Disclosure of Members' Interests for Assembly and Permanent Council members after a general election, a member must disclose his or her registrable interest within 60 working days after the member took the prescribed oath as contemplated in section 48 or section 62, paragraph 6, read with schedule 2 of the Constitution, as the case may be. The disclosures opened on the 19th of July, 2024, and it will close on the 14th of October, 2024. These dates were communicated to all members by the Office of the Registrar of Members' Interests, and members must prioritize completing their declarations. Honorable members, the only item on today's order paper is questions addressed to ministers in Cluster 1, Peace and Security. There are 4 supplementary questions on each question. Parties have given an indication of which questions their members wish to pose a supplementary question. Adequate notice was given to parties for this purpose. This was done to facilitate participation of members who are connecting to the sitting through the virtual platform. The members who will pose supplementary questions will be recognized by the presiding officer. In allocating opportunities for supplementary questions, the principle of fairness, amongst others, have been applied. If a member who is supposed to ask a supplementary question through the virtual platform is unable to do so due to technical difficulties, the party whip on duty will be allowed to ask the question on behalf of their member. When all supplementary questions has been answered by the executive, we will proceed to the next question on the question paper. The first question has been asked by the Honorable Ramolo Beng to the Minister of Correctional Services. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. The answer to the question is as follows. An investigator was appointed to look at the possible complicity of officials, and any consequence management disciplinary action will emanate from the decision taken following the investigations. Regarding the video clip of a remand detainee, Boniface Carrera Banks, a Zimbabwean national, circulated on social media on the 14th of July 2024, the inmate was traced and found at Unit G6A, Room 4 at the Goodwood Correctional Center. According to the investigation, the inmate had several videos recorded on his TikTok account, and further investigation indicates that these videos inside the cell and in the courtyard were recorded owing to poor supervision by officials. The inmate was charged, degraded, and immediately transferred to a maximum facility. The TikTok account was deactivated on 28th of July 2024, and the inmate forfeited his privileges, such as visits and buying from the offender shop, for a period of 3 months. The National Commissioner conducted a searching operation joined by the media on the 16th of July 24 with an objective of bringing to light the conditions of the centre and dispel the myth of a soft life behind bars at Goodwood Correctional Facility. A similar approach was to be observed by 2 other searching operations, being in Johannesburg and Durban Correctional Centres. Removing contraband in order to ensure safe and secure custody is a priority for correctional services. Hence, working with the media is strategic in amplifying a DCS message whilst educating the public about the corrections as a societal responsibility. Mainstream media engagement is being cascaded to community media by means of securing slots. This is a platform that will ensure that the community is informed and engaged. By leveraging the power of community media, the department's message will find resonance with communities and be best positioned to drive public education. Inmates are currently remand detainees at Goodwood Correctional Centres. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, I've been informed that the Honourable Mr. M.M. Sokopo will take charge of this question on behalf of the Honourable Ramabuleng.
Thank you, House Chair. May I take the question for Honorable Sokopo?
Please proceed.
Thank you, House Chair. Thank you very much, Minister, for your response. And the steps taken against the inmate are noted and well received. We also share your concern about inmates who still possess contraband in a form of communication tools and are still communicating with the outside world. Can you please just indicate what is the department's plans to restrict unlawful communication by inmates in the centers? Thank you very much, Minister.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. There are various ways to deal with this matter of cell phones and connections from in our facilities to the outside world. Although it's not that simple. For instance, you can have a jammer, but some of our facilities is close to highways and the community itself, and you cannot restrict the jamming just to the center as such, and that will have an influence on the community as well. So what we are doing, we're looking at technology. There are sophisticated technology to make it a more focused situation, but it is expensive, and we will have to look at our budget. Thank you.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable J. Engelbrecht.
Thank you, Minister. The actions against the inmate is clear. However, what specific failures in oversight or management allow such issues to occur, and what accountability measures are taken against those responsible for these lapses from within the department?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. As we said, it was quite clear that some of officials were part of this breach. And I can say that after the investigation, a total of 6 officials were identified for disciplinary actions to be instituted against them. An investigation was conducted and completed. The Area Commissioner of Goodwood took a decision on Sunday, the 25th of August, 2024, to institute the disciplinary process against the 6 officials. The status at the moment is all 6 members are formally charged. 2 out of the 6 are finalized, namely the head of the centre and acting unit manager, and 4 are still in process. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Denner.
Dankie, agbare huisvoorsitter. Agbare minister, het nou vir ons 'n uiteensetting gegee van wat met die amptenare in hierdie geval gaan gebeur. Maar ons weet dat gevolgebestuur in staatsdepartemente oor die algemeen 'n reuse probleem is. Ek sal graag van u wil weet, hoe gaan u van u kant af as minister 'n sterk boodskap stuur dat wangedrag deur amptenare nie geduld sal word nie en dat daar behoorlike gevolgebestuur in u departement sal plaasvind. Dankie, voorsitter.
Thank you, the Honourable Minister.
Dankie, agbare voorsitter. Voorsitter, is baie belangrik en ek het al op rekord gesê, die eerste stap om korrupsie te beveg, is om te verseker dat daar gevolge is vir daardie lede wat hulle skuldig maak aan oortredings. So consequence management is essential if you want to eradicate corruption in any department. And that, as I said, the officials are investigated, some concluded, and there will be disciplinary steps. Ek wil ook sê, agbare voorsitter en lede, dat ek het byvoorbeeld 'n gesprek gehad met al die lede van hoofkantoor, ongeveer 2000 van hulle, en ek het baie duidelik gesê, korrupsie kan nie net deur 'n minister beveg word nie, maar ons moet hande vat, want ek wil vir julle sê, die meerderheid van die lede van die korrektiewe dienste is eerbare, hardwerkende mense met integriteit, en ons sal met hande vat om die vrot appels te identifiseer, en daar moet dissiplinêre stappe plaasvind teen daardie lede. Dankie.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. May I just remind the honourable members on the virtual platform not to disturb proceedings by switching on their microphones, and I ask the table staff that if it indeed happens that you just mute those microphones, please. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Zibi.
Thank you, Chair. This incident is definitely not isolated. Is the minister going to do anything to ensure ongoing vetting of correctional officials in order to systematically reduce the collusion between correctional officials and offenders?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I can say yes, we are prepared to look at all the officials that can probably be part of such, can I say, contraband coming into our facilities. It is impossible, if you follow the correct procedures, that you can have this contraband, and therefore we're also going to take certain steps, stricter steps, to ensure, to go through the process and the security process as such, that those officials are also properly monitored to ensure that we eradicate these, can I say, contraband in our facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, question number 37 has been asked by the Honourable Breitenbach to the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much. DM Nell is assigned to respond and he's online.
The
House Chairperson.
Yes, the Deputy Minister.
House Chairperson, thank you very much, and greetings to all members. The Minister has asked me to address this question.
Why
Deputy Minister, my apologies.
What?
Can we just mute the microphone of Amanda Ngumalo?
Yeah.
Please proceed, Honourable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. Am I audible?
Honourable Deputy Minister, let me just take a...
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. I just want to recognize an honourable member in the House, the Honourable Tola Barnard.
Thank you very much. I was just wondering if you could explain to the members why the Minister is here, but the Deputy is answering the question. Thank you.
Yes, no, honourable members, we were informed that the Deputy Minister will deal with this matter given the responsibilities that has been allocated. More than that, we don't have further information on. The Honourable Deputy Minister now.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. And I think just to add to that is that the President has appointed ministers and deputy ministers. Deputy ministers are there to assist ministers. I have in this instance been asked by the Minister as part of a team to answer this question. I think first of all to say that we welcome the Honourable Breitenbach's question because we know that she shares our commitment to combating corruption and ensuring that never, never and never again do we revisit the tragic chapter of state capture in our national life. The SAA matter involving the issues addressed in the US plea agreement by Mr. Julian Aries is still under investigation by the Investigating Directorate Against Corruption. The IDAC continues to engage with the US authorities to assist with this investigation. I think we can just add that the Investigating Directorate has authorized 18 new investigations, bringing the total number of authorized investigations since its establishment in 2019 to 115. Since its inception, the ID has brought a total of 37 matters before the criminal courts. Among these cases, 7 are related to state capture, addressing a total of 21 state capture recommendations. I think this underscores very clearly the ID's commitment to addressing corruption at all levels, particularly in cases involving state capture, which have significant ramifications for governance and accountability. The IDAC remains at the forefront of the NPA's efforts to tackle complex and high-level corruption cases, with a focus on 21 major investigation categories spanning both the public and the private sectors. The ID's work encompasses a wide range of entities and individuals implicated in corrupt practices. Some of the notable entities and individuals under investigation include Transnet, Eskom, Bosasa, Estina, Bain, Alex Corps, South African Airways, the Public Investment Corporation as well. Several of these investigations have already progressed to court proceedings, while others remain ongoing. With regards to the department playing a vital role in assisting and supporting the NPA to prosecute those involved in state capture, we can just say that in responding to the recommendations of the Zondo Commission, President Ramaphosa requested the DOJ to, amongst others, conduct a review of the Protected Disclosures Act to ensure that whistleblowers receive protection afforded by Article 32.2 of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. The department has also drafted and championed the NPA Amendment Act, which was passed last year by this House, to strengthen the IDAC as a permanent structure and to provide for the appointment of investigators in both the IDAC and the NPA. And I think honorable members would have read that recently the Investigating Directorate has been strengthened by the appointment of the likes of Advocate Terry Motau, Advocate Paul Pretorius, and others, and Advocate Matthew Chaskelson. I think we can also say that the department's work in the areas of mutual legal assistance and extradition has also started.
Honourable Deputy Minister, your time is now expired.
Yeah, just to say that yesterday, Michael Lomas, implicated in 745 million rands worth of
Minister,
corruption.
your time is expired.
Thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you. Honourable members, may I just draw the attention of the House in response to the Honourable Kolobana to Rule 138, Sub-Rule 3, that a minister may authorize his or her deputy minister to reply to a question directed at that minister, provided that the deputy minister is able to respond competently to any permissible supplementary questions that may be asked. The Honourable Breitenbach.
Thank you, House Chair. Honourable Minister, considering that the department over which you preside is constitutionally bound to assist the National Prosecuting Authority and participate in policy making of the National Prosecuting Authority to ensure successful and efficient prosecutions, how will you manage the rather glaring conflict of interest between yourself as a suspect and the NPA as a body required to prosecute you? Thank you.
Honourable Deputy Minister, did you get the question?
I did. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much to the Honourable Breitenbach for that follow-up question. I think a very relevant question, which the Minister herself is on record as saying that she intends to give her absolute and full cooperation with all law enforcement agencies. I think it's also by now a matter of public record that President Ramaphosa has requested Minister Simelane to provide him with a full and a detailed report on the allegations against her. Thank you.
The second supplementary question is to be asked by Honorable Advocate Nkobane. Honorable Paulson will take the question on her behalf.
Thank you very much.
Welcome
House
back,
Chair.
Honorable Paulson.
Thank you very much once again, Chair. Chairperson, since it's alleged that the digital evidence from the Zondo Gossip Commission has disappeared conveniently, and SA law of evidence is very clear that no successful prosecution will take place on hearsay. What contingency plans does the department have to recover or reconstruct lost digital evidence related to state capture without incurring additional wasteful expenditure after spending close to 1 billion rand? And has an internal investigation been initiated to determine how the digital evidence from the Zondo Commission disappeared and actions taken to hold accountable those responsible for the disappearance of the digital evidence?
The Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. It's a bit difficult for me to answer that question because I'm not aware of any such evidence going missing. The Minister and I have both received extensive briefings from both the NPA as well as the department, and there is no indication that any of that material has been lost. There have been reports of challenges with accessibility related to the updating of certain of the software licenses, but that's a question of access, not a question of the availability of the evidentiary material itself. Thank you.
Thank you. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Trollip.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Corruption has sadly become an indelible blight in our society, and the dearth of successful prosecution of offenders, despite the billions of rands invested in the Zondo Commission and other law enforcement endeavors, is an absolute shame. Yet foreign nationals guilty of corruption and of corrupting South Africans are found guilty abroad, as in this case. Does having a Minister of Justice who herself has a cloud of suspected corruption hanging over her head not undermine our efforts to win the war against corruption, and notwithstanding her undertaking to cooperate fully, is it not more prudent for her to vacate her position until her name has been cleared? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson. We note the comments in the editorialization by the Honorable Member, as is his right, but we believe that we have addressed that matter as raised by another member previously. I thank you.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Swart.
Thank you, House Chair. Arising from your response, Honorable Deputy Minister, the ACDP appreciates your response to the digital evidence that is available, but the concern that we have is apparently the NPA's IDAC do not have sufficient access to that information, and that obviously negatively impacts upon the successful prosecution of state capture. You mentioned the issue of licenses, but there also seems to be a challenge that the NPA or the IDAC are requested for specific applications for specific evidence. And would you not agree, Deputy Minister, that they should be given unrestricted access, given the huge amount of information, and that it is very difficult when you're gathering evidence for prosecution to say this is the specific evidence that you require? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy Minister.
I thank the Honorable Swart for that question, because I think it's a very, very important and a relevant question, and I hope that it is one that the Minister and I could pursue with the Portfolio Committee, because I think it demands, it's a little bit more complex than can be answered fully in the scope of one parliamentary question or follow-up question. But just to say that the NPA and all other law enforcement agencies do have access to the database, the repository, the archive of the Zondo Commission. At the moment, there is a protocol and a framework in terms of which they can make specific requests for information. They've made a very, very strong plea and, in my view, a very strong case as well for broader access to be able to search that database. The minister has taken the initiative to convene a meeting with the NDPP, with the National Director of Public Prosecutions, as well as the relevant officials in the department. The minister requested me, and I have had direct meetings with the NDPP and other members of the NPA to gain a better understanding of their requirements and their requests, and to see how that can be best facilitated. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Minister. Honorable members, question number 24 has been asked by the Honorable Wekana to the Minister of Defence and Military Veterans. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you. I'll say, companies. I say, Chair, the Department of Military Veterans did disperse benefits to military veterans in line with the Act 18 of 2011. And the military veterans benefits are regulated, regulations of 2014, including the policies and standard operating procedures. Chair, once the department receives a complete application form from a military veteran, it is processed following all prescripts, and upon approval, the file is submitted to finance payment units. Thereafter, the payment is processed and proof of payment is shared with the applicant. So the only benefit that is currently not disbursed is the subsidized public transport to military veterans. And the Department of Transport, as the lead department in the provision of public transport in the country, is developing national public transport subsidy to address the funding requirements for subsidizing public transport, including equitable allocation. The policy would do away with the dispensing of public transport subsidy on a historical level and enable the government to fund public transport at the right level. So the Department of Military Veterans will therefore collaborate with the Department of Transport on how the department subsidizes public transport strategy so that it's aligned to the national policy towards the DMV policy development and implementation. Thank you very much, Chair.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Kwekana.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Minister, the veterans marched to the Union Building, demanded 15,000 a month pension. And the DMV Advisory Council, a year before, they agreed with the amount, the same amount. Now, why is the DMV paying out a lesser amount? They are not paying what was agreed upon by the Advisory Council. Why is the DMV, and why the veterans, the stakeholders were not told? Why were not consulted? They were not even consulted. They are just issuing money that it's lesser than that was agreed upon. This is what I want to know.
The Honorable Minister.
Chair, the question wanted me to know when are the directives being issued on processing the pension, not 15,000 and what is being paid. So I'm answering the fact that directives have been issued, money is being paid. If the member wants to know why it was 15,700 or what, I think I can prepare an answer at the right time. So what I can say, even from guessing, if wishes were, horses will all ride. So I'm not sure what had informed the amount allocated and the amount requested. I'm responding to the question that are being asked about directives, but I can follow up and check for the member to say what happened between what would have been approved and what is being paid, what informed that, but that's not what you had asked me, member. But I can give you an answer if that's what you want me to respond to.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Modisa Mtia.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, Taking into considerations the challenges that are faced by the military veterans, could you elaborate broadly on the significant efforts and achievements made by the department to the military veterans beneficiaries, such as provision of houses, healthcare, access to educational support, and more, if any? Thank you very much.
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much again, member. I did visit the department to really get to know and understand what other benefits that military veterans are getting and where there are difficulties, why do we still experience difficulties. And from the report I received, I was told that to date, almost 2,225 houses were provided and 608 mortgage bonds were rescued. That's what I received. In terms of educational support, I was also told that more than 4,000 learners for both basic and tertiary have been done. The number is going to be increased. And for basic education only, it was about 31,000. For tertiary, it was about 10,000. And it has produced more than 700 graduates from the system. And that's the information that I was supplied with. And in terms of healthcare, because also I had lots of veterans also raising issues about access to healthcare. And I was informed that 19,657 military veterans have been provided with access to healthcare, but there is also a process where the Department of Military Veterans and the South African medical healthcare system of military veterans are being aligned to make sure that they can also receive their, the non-statutory can also receive healthcare from the services. There are also MOs which are being worked on with provinces. I spoke also to the Premier from Gauteng, but we'll be speaking to other provinces to also align at that level. But there have been lots of support mechanisms that have been put in place, like provision of healthcare, access to social workers, access to psychiatrists. So there is a whole basket of services around healthcare which have been provided, but obviously they will not be adequate. Hence, on an ongoing basis, we're trying to improve the services and are responding to the queries that are coming to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Kebekulu.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Mhlonishwa, sikhuluma ngodaba lapho oludala. Ungqongqoshe osephumile, ungqongqoshe uMaphisa Nqakula walikhuluma lolu daba. Ungqongqoshe ophumileyo izolo, ungqongqoshe uModise ubelikhuluma lolu daba. Kodwa akubonakali ukuthi inqola iya phambili noma basizakala. Mhlawumbe ke umuntu engabuza nje ke mhlonishwa. With this in mind, what is the rank of the veterans, or military veterans who will receive the benefits? With this in mind, Honorable Minister, what is the rank of the military veterans who will receive the benefits?
The Honorable Minister.
Ngiyaxolisa usihambe singibaleke khona engangizwa silahle khona angazwanga kahle ngizokwazi ukuphendula kahle angizwanga kahle angisize nje angizwanga umbuzo ekugcineni ngizokwazi ukuphendula kahle.
Mhlonishwa,
please repeat.
House Chairperson, bengithi mhlonishwa ngokwekhundla zalaba abazohlomula khundla zini nemhlomulo yabo.
No, ngiyabonga bengazwanga kahle indaba yerank. So sengizwe kahle njoba ngisho nje udaba esifanele siqhubeka sixazulula insuku nensuku. That's why khona abaqashiwe and kuyiqiniso nje ukuthi mhlambe asikakwenzi konke ofanele ngaba sikwenzile. Kodwa kuyiqiniso futhi ukuthi kuyenziwa kuyaqhutsheka umsebenzi uyaqhutshwa. Ingane ziyafundiswa. Abangaphatheke kahle bafike esibhedlela. Ama-pension ayabhadalwa. Kodwa okusalayo ukuthi njengoba usho hayi ukuthi akho kwenzakalayo. Kukhona okwenzakalayo kodwa siyaqhubha ukuthi sifikele la sifuna ukuya khona. Ngokwayikhundla angaze njengoba ngile ukuthi ngithi bangihlukanisele ukuthi ubani otholayo kwisikhundla sini, ubani ongatholi. Nalowo ngayobuza umbuzo ngoba nabe ngiziphendulela nje umbuzo engibuze uyohoxa ukuthi amapha amalungelo esiwalungisile. So ngiphendule lokho ngilungisele lokho. Kodwa mafuna ukwazikhundla ngakhona ngiyathembisa ngake ngiyobabuza bangitshele ke ukuthi izikhundla zihamba njani. Ngiyabonga.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Mente, why do you want to be recognized?
Thank you, House Chair. I think Minister uzene deputy and deputy general. Ba kukho apho kungahlangani khona uminister angacela nje ugeneral samvumela angenelele lapha angafikeleli khona.
No, the minister is currently replying to the question. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Nontenja.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. In light of the study conducted at Wits University in 2023, which revealed that military veterans who were part of apartheid-related conflicts between 1960 and 1991 have suffered from depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, mental disorder, or anxiety. The study showed the self-reported rate of PTSD was 91%. Honorable Minister, what steps has the department taken to provide mental health care to military veterans, especially those who have not received their pension benefits payouts, to address their mental health issues? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister.
No, ndiyabulela sathi ngabubuza ekhaya lo mbuzo phaka kumakhelwane u-UDM kodwa ithi niphendule ke. In terms of psychiatric assistance, what I was informed, member, is that in the military health centers, both military 1, 2, and 3, there are those services. We have a number of psychologists and psychiatrists that do work with military veterans, pre-apartheid, post-apartheid, as long as they are registered military veterans. So there is a number of them, but I guess they have to present themselves, or the families present them so that they can get support from the department. But I can assure you that those that have been presented, who have presented themselves or have been presented by families, do get support because there are systems in place to support them.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, question number 8 has been asked by the Honorable CM Dugmore to the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, House Chair. And permit me to start by making a commitment to this House on my availability with regard to the response, if any, is needed by the House or the committee or the public protector on the issues that are doing rounds. So the allocation to the question was on the basis of the delegation in the department. Honorable Dugmore, the remedial actions were 7 as given by the public protector in June 2024. And the first remedial action had to do with the department developing standards for a model court to deal basically with the services and the family courts to determine the service standards. And the plan has been developed and guidelines have been circulated to all and sundry, but also to ensure that the courts do make the inputs. And the second remedial action was related to infrastructure, and 82 facilities have been identified to deal with minor capital works, but also to make them gender-based sensitive, particularly to the victims. 33 minor of those capital works are currently underway with regard to infrastructure being done. The third remedial action was the construction or renovation as well, and for the procurement of all courts which have been identified for the audit. Yes, there were more than what the department can be able to deal with at the same time, but the project plan, which both involves the infrastructure that I referred to with regard to remedial action 2, and for the lower courts has been finalized. The fourth one dealt with the human resources and the courts on how to develop the plan with regard to capacity constraints. And the plan is also finalized, and it is going to be focusing on the lower courts because of the available budget. And this fifth remedial action was dealing with the filing system. Audit is progress, and I must indicate that we do have challenges, yes, with regard to the overall filing system and management of our archives and records in the department, but the progress is happening there. And the last, rather second last, was dealing with the language options. Yes, it's still underway, but Form 6, which we all know is the application for a protection order that a victim uses, has also been translated together with Form 8 into all official languages. But we must confess here, honorable members, that they are not printed and made available, but on request on what form you need, we then print that form available. And this is on the basis of the availability of resources that we don't have. We have currently concluded the Constitution and the information products of GPV to also be on Braille and in large print. And our hope is that we'll also be able to do all of that in all the official languages. And the last remedial action was about the functional of the portal and the application of protection orders, which you can now get on our online solution on a 24-hour basis. We have a minor challenge there with regards to the strength of our Wi-Fi, but the department is currently finalizing phase 2, which entails the end-to-end solution of linking into the application directly to the magistrate, the police, to ensure where possible a person doesn't die holding a protection order, and there is faster response into that. So the solution is being piloted on all the sampled 82 courts in collaboration with civil society. Thank you very much, Honorable.
Thank you. Before I ask the Honorable Darkmore to take a supplementary question, I see the hand of the member at the back. Why do you want to be recognized, Honorable Member?
Speaker, I wanted to find out if the minister would like to take a question regarding VBS.
No, Honorable Member. Please look. Order. Order, Honorable Members. Please look at the rule book in terms, Honorable Member. Honorable Member, I'm responding to you now. Look at the rule book, read it.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Darkmore. Order, Honorable Members.
Thank you very much, House Chair. And through you, I would like to thank the Minister for a very comprehensive response in regard to the remedial actions as recommended by the Public Protector in 2024. I think these responses, the 7 remedial actions, I think there's been a very open and honest response as to where progress has been made and also where there is further work to be done. But what I would like to ask as a follow-up or supplementary question is that given the difficulties and the need to ensure that the applications for protection orders, whether they are physical or online, are simplified, given the fact that gender-based violence is traumatic and complicated, and that these forms can often be discouraging. Now, in the Minister's response, there was a reference to language, but what I would really like to ask is, are there other ways of actually simplifying this process that the Minister and the Department are giving attention to? Thanks.
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Yes, there are other ways. The department also has in its employ social workers, psychologists who assist in the courts. In fact, in the approved structure that the department has just received authorization from the Department of Public Service and Administration is to further look into the strengthening of the assistance psychologically in terms of support, referral but also care, which links into the Tutuzela care centers, which are also overseen by our court. In total, there are around 50 in the country, or 56, if I'm not wrong. Yes, there's still much need for that. So the support goes beyond the application and the filling of the form, the protection, which is the extension in terms of the relationship between ourselves, the magistrates, and the police in the jurisdiction where the order has been given. And I'm not saying there are no challenges in terms of responsiveness on how issues could be improved, but there is progress on assisting in the centers and the 82 courts that have already been upgraded. Thank you.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Breitenbach.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Minister, the violent and fatal gender-based violence attack on Devony Nell appears by all accounts to have been entirely avoidable. The suspect is alleged to have raped a then 11-year-old girl in 2020. At the time, the 11-year-old victim was intent on filing a complaint to safeguard against any future violence by this boy. After a prolonged and disgraceful legal battle, the girl's mother was left distraught as the charges against the boy were withdrawn and no real retribution had resulted from the complaint. It was, however, recommended that the boy be placed in an intervention program. This, by all accounts, did not happen with very tragic results. What safeguards are in place to ensure that child perpetrators of gender-based violence are properly monitored and made to attend intervention programs? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. I will avoid in all forms to follow the example of Minister Mtsera by sticking into the question. But because it's a topical case that one has been able to go through as well individually, is the alignment that I'm talking about between the police, the magistrates, and the social services or the psychological services, that a joint system needs to be able to provide. You receive an order, you go to investigation, or the issue is investigated. The protection needs to go beyond the issues or the circumstance that the victim is facing at the time. It's a sad case, and one can only say we'll learn from it in terms of strengthening our systems. But to be able to offer an alternative and a full support in the system in all our courts, it is practically not possible at this moment. But in courts where you are able to provide support, you do. But secondly, jointly with the SAPS, we're also even looking into the refinement of the 24-hour waiting period of a person who either would have been reported to be missing or reported to have been a victim facing whatever form of abuse or intimidation, to be assisted agently rather than the reform of our systems and services. So I will get more information if you need on how best could we be able to monitor, which is what I think I agree with you, it's a part that is lacking, particularly cases which are already on the roll, which needs a firm and a tight relationship between the investigation and the prosecution, either by a court or a magistrate. I mean, there's quite a number of examples, even here in the Western Cape. Our last meeting with the minister here was about some of the cases which have been dropped, which don't relate into sexual offenses, but it happens, the arrest, the investigation, and the dropping of the cases, or the unavailability of evidence at a particular time. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Denner.
Thank you, House Chair. Honorable Minister, you mentioned that one of the 7 intervention steps are to make capital investments into facilities. Now, your predecessor, and I know that you can't speak to what he said to us, but your predecessor confirmed to this House in March of this year that 98 courtrooms have been upgraded between 2019 and December 2023, exactly to be used as sexual offences courts after the ascension of the Judicial Matters Bill. I would like to know how many of those courtrooms have indeed been finalized, can be used, are they all in use? And are those 82 facilities that you mentioned part of the 98? Because we have, as you know, a great shortage of sexual offences courts, and this is a very serious matter, so we need the facilities. Thank you, House Chair.
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. In fact, the progress between that March and today is an additional 2. So we currently have 100 of those upgrades. And I must contextualize, Honorable House Chair, that the limit of the infrastructure with regard to upgrades for the department is at around 1 million. The related development of infrastructure resides with the Department of Public Works. We're doing jointly work, not only in a sexual offences court, but in magistrates and in high court. And we must indicate the challenges that both departments are facing in terms of shortage of funds and or availability of funds versus the demand of infrastructure improvement. But the 100 facilities have been upgraded. They are victim sensitive, they are victim user friendly, they protect the children in instances and cases where they are. There are still, yes, in all the magistrate courts that have not been covered in terms of that. And as you move, the targets increases, because who would want all the courts and magistrates to be victim sensitive, particularly on gender-based related type of cases, so that we don't second victimize our victims. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. And the last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Webster.
Thank you, Minister, for the detailed responses. In your responses, you mentioned human resource capacity. My question is related, and it's more about training. How much, or let's say, how is the allocated budget being distributed towards ensuring that staff and court officials are trained on GBV sensitivity and also on trauma-informed approaches within the courts, because that becomes some of the issues that happens in those magistrates.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. There are about 4 running programs and there could be more. You have the magistrate commissions, which deals with the training and the capacity, the allocation, the upgrades of magistrates and the related programs. You have the Justice College, which takes both the prosecutors and the prosecution and deals with cyber forensic training. Then you have got both the SIU and the NPA running their own in-house training on the basis of what is needed. If you might have noticed, either last week or so, NPA would have released an advert of recruitment to ensure that we get the younger prosecutors and the training, which is ensuring that you get to beef up the system. Additionally, they are currently in the ID, the investigative directorate, also having training programs, which goes into provinces to ensure that investigation prosecutions also is stronger at the provincial level and not only dependent. And I might have let, for example, the judges have got their own institute, SIJ, which deals with their own development. As judges, you then have got SALA, the South African Women Leadership, which also has got its own training. So it's quite a number of training programs that are able to assist with regard to improvement. What we may want to guard against is to ensure that, particularly with regard to cybercrime, forensic data analytics, those are areas which we have got a shortage, and that impacts on the pace and the fastness on how some of the cases complex can be resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, we will now proceed to question number 54. That has been asked by the Honorable Letlape to the Minister of Police. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, House Chair, and to honorable members. Before I answer directly to the question, I just want to make a statement in this regard. And the statement is that the gender-based violence and femicide and what is termed corrective rape are some of the most challenging antisocial behaviors in our society. While the South African Police Service has a role in addressing these issues. It goes beyond ordinary policing. In fact, it is near impossible to police gender-based violence in its entirety, in the sense that these incidents take place in households, in bedrooms, and all of that, and between people who are very close to one another. But that's not to say we say police have no role. We're just talking about the origins of this that make it very difficult to police them. It is important that we reorientate ourselves and not throw all the burden of policing these issues just to police and confine them there. It requires an all-of-society approach. To combat GPV and F, we need change societal attitudes through social engineering. Now, when it comes to answering directly on this question, the South African Police Service is currently implementing the Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Action Plan. Now, which is aligned to the National Strategic Plan on GBV and F. Focus area number 4 of the SAPS GBVF Action Plan deals with the prevention of gender-based violence and sexual offenses. The SAPS categorizes rape as one of the GBVF related offenses. The intended focus is to enhance feelings of safety among women, children, and vulnerable groups, which are an integral part of all society. SAPS implement GBV and F prevention and awareness raising programs within the focus area as prevention measures, but also to encourage victims to report and seek assistance. The involvement of communities and stakeholders in the use of awareness programs recognizes the police action alone. The involvement of communities and stakeholders and the use of awareness programs recognize that police action alone will not serve as a deterrent for intimate forms of violence like sexual offenses. But the interventions to address GBV and F related crimes include the following. 1, awareness campaigns at identified GBV hotspots, ministerial dialogues and embizos on GBV and F, awareness programs that are conducted specifically by family violence, child protection and sexual offenses units, which investigate cases of rape and are therefore very familiar with prevailing trends. Increased compliance assessment on GBV and F related regulatory frameworks at police stations, the improving of the involvement of community policing forums and performing oversight in police stations and promoting community education, and so on. There are quite a number of things.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Your time has now expired. The first supplementary question will be asked by Honourable Letlape.
Aye, but this table stuff. Thank you very much. Minister, there is a steady increase and not a decline in the number of reported rape cases in the country over the past few years. We know the primary purpose for the murder of Uyinene Mrechwane was for her perpetrator to commit rape. We know that Namhla Mthwa was murdered in Umtata in the Eastern Cape. And at the center of her murder was a boyfriend who did not want to let go of her. What is said with the issue of Namhla Mthwa is that the perpetrator is still walking free in the street of Eastern Cape. Due to what? Due to the incompetence of the police to investigate. What I want to find out, and we want to find out, Minister, is that what other measures and approach are you going to implement to make sure that prevention of violence against women and children stop in South Africa?
Honourable the Minister.
Thank you very much. It's not entirely what the honorable member is saying, that it's incompetence. In order to get somebody arrested and tried in a court of law, you need evidence and sufficient evidence. You can have an expert in investigating a case, but if you don't land in what is relevant for a particular case, you won't be able to. That case is among the cases that are receiving our attention now in Mthatha. You will understand that we've beefed up security there in the form of detectives, in the form of special operations people. But we have also sought to strengthen our relations with people in the justice system. We actually had a chat with Minister of Justice to say there's a complaint from there that says that there is something that people are experiencing in terms of perceptions, that prosecutors are not they are not doing what people would ordinarily expect them to do. Whether that's true or not is another matter. But we're discussing the matter with justice while these operations are taking place. And we hope that some of these cases, including the one that you are highlighting, will, yes, with the person that you are talking about, we will be able to come up with something, depending, of course, that with all the intensified kind of effort, we will be able to get sufficient justice. I mean, evidence to get in that matter.
Thank you, Minister. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Klute. Yes, just take your seat one moment, please, Honorable Member. Yes, Honorable Mente.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, we're dealing with a case that is very sensitive in terms of the question asked to the minister by our member. And we have given the names of victims of brutal crime. For the minister not to say the name, she has a name. Now it's a by the way, and she's reducing her into some object that just disappeared.
Yeah.
Her name is Namhlamthwa.
Thank you.
You must say her name so that he can understand.
Yeah.
the
Honorable
seriousness
Mente,
of this thing.
we are not in a position to prescribe to the executive as to how to answer. So while I take note of your comment, it is an opinion. Honorable Klute, please proceed.
Thank you, House Chairperson, Minister.
Order, honorable members, please give the Honorable Klute an opportunity.
Minister, the prevention of crime in general and the rape in particular requires a comprehensive and multi-sectoral approach by both government and society. In general, that means that the question of morality in society, substance abuse, stereotypes of men towards women, the centrality of civil society organizations, as well as religious and cultural organizations are crucial in the prevention of rape. How is the police strengthening the multi-sectoral approach to fight crime in general and rape in particular? Minister, thank you, House Chairperson.
The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much. The approach is indeed along the lines that the honorable member is outlining. Communities differ one from the other. Other communities are highly organized in the sense that they're able to organize a neighborhood watch groupings. Others seek the help of private security, but others have CPFs. But the intention is to involve everybody in the fight against crime, wherever it rears its ugly head. We ourselves, in relation to metros, we started a program where we really make an effort out of our way and gather together, like we did yesterday in the city hall here, get all the active social groupings in one place and listen to them, and including their advices, and then start implementing the outcome of such. So we do consult, we do involve, and we do work with social groupings in fighting crime. Thank you.
Thank you. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Nontenja.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. In April 2024, at the opening of the 64th Victim Support Center in Stellenbosch, the NPA head, Shamila Batoy, confirmed that despite the 75% conviction rate, there is a high number of GBV cases being withdrawn. Too many cases are not getting to court. Also, a total of 174 GBV matters were struck from the court roll between April and December 2023 due to SAP's inefficiencies. Honorable Minister, the question is, have you or the department has considered a more effective solution to reduce rape cases from being withdrawn and train police officers to be more sympathetic and sensitive with the GBV matters and victims? If yes, what are the relevant details?
Honorable
If you
Member,
know, why?
thank you. Honorable the Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Member. I'm not sure about the red tape, and therefore I'm not going to be able to answer what you mean by red tape. But you speak about what you allege to be inefficiency on the side of police, and you allude to Advocate Batoy's statements. Fact of the matter is that, yes, there are instances where a case or cases will be investigated, but there will be some holes or some weaknesses in the statements that will be prepared to go to court. We do experience that. And what is happening now is that we are having initial discussions to say, how do we make improvements, not just in relation to statements relating to GBVNF, but all statements in all cases, so that we improve in terms of the quality of the statements that all police take in police stations when those matters get taken to court, so that both the magistrate or judges on one hand and the defense lawyers on the other don't find easy loopholes so that cases get thrown out. So there is that particular feeling amongst us that there is such, but it's not red tape. Thank you.
Thank you. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Thring.
Thank you, Minister. On any particular day, about 148 women are raped in South Africa. The vast majority of these rapes are the girl child under 18 years of age. With pornography being the theory and rape the practice, the ACDP has on numerous occasions called for the banning of all forms of pornography which denigrates and objectifies women. That said, Minister, noting the poor conviction rate of around 14%, do you agree that better cooperation of all crime-fighting agencies needs to be improved in order to increase the conviction rate, and that there needs to be harsher sentences meted out to perpetrators of rape, including life sentences? If yes, How do you propose to implement this? If not, why not?
Thank you. The Honourable Minister.
I agree with the larger part of your statement that you need cooperation of more than one department in making sure that you increase the rate of conviction. I've just alluded to one, that we need to do what we've identified as one of the areas of improvement, wherein SAPS work very closely with NPA in particular. And from what I've gathered, including what we'll be discussing in the first meeting of the JCPS, it would be those areas that are being identified as areas that need very close cooperation. And in some of these cases, during investigation, you do need to have very close proximity with NPA so that there aren't too many gaps between what SAPs are doing and in turn taking to the justice system and NPA themselves. And there is agreement and there's willingness politically to do such closeness and ensure that the quality of our work getting to courts are at the required level for convictions to be. So what we intend doing, therefore, is to go exactly on those areas that have been identified. And we hope that once implemented, once agreed on and implemented, we will have an improvement. And look, I just want to say that it's not only us here in this house that want higher convictions. Even the police themselves, they want to see their job and their work resulting into a higher number of convictions. We talk about this every day. They want this themselves. And that's a plus in terms of the work that we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable members, question number 11 has been asked by the Honourable Chabani to the Minister of Home Affairs. The Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. The answer to the question relating to this bill is yes, it will be tabled in due course. The Cabinet decision of the 10th of April 2024 did include a number of comments that need to be addressed through supplementation in the bill, and that is what we will do. Chair, we also, of course, have a new administration elected by the people, and supplementing the bill will ensure alignment with the GNU's emerging priorities, with the work of Operation Vulindlela, and with the medium-term development plan. At the end of the day, all of this will ensure that we present the strongest possible bill. It is very important, Chair, that we get this process absolutely right, so that the bill that emerges from this process is absolutely watertight to legal challenges. I must emphasize this. I've made the point that Home Affairs needs to get out of court and onto service delivery. And so the work we do in this regard has to be legally watertight. Finally, to the Honourable Member, I think it's important to also point out that we have to actually prepare Home Affairs to effectively implement this bill and other legislation that is currently before the Portfolio Committee and that is emerging out of the work we do. That is precisely why it is so important that we pursue digital transformation, reform of Home Affairs, strengthening our internal capacity, including the understaffing problem that we have, so that we ensure the system is in place to effectively implement this bill, secure our borders, and enable growth and development. Thank you.
Thank you. The first opportunity to ask a supplementary question is that of the Honourable Chabani.
Thank you, House Chair. Thank you, Minister. The ANC has noted that extensive work has been done on the white paper by the executive and ultimately approved by Cabinet in the 6th administration. Notwithstanding areas of your concerns, Minister, that you have raised, what can you outline timeframe when will the bill be presented in Parliament, given the experience of the last executive where bills are being brought in Parliament towards the end of the term? Thank you.
The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. So the initial planning indicates the 31st of March 2027, but obviously with the supplementary comments that have come out of the Cabinet process and the emerging priorities that need to be reflected as I mentioned, the medium-term development plan, as well as the work of Operation Vulindlela, that timeline will be something that we will have to look at in a dynamic process. But I think it is important to make the point that we will be working very diligently to make sure that what is ultimately tabled is something that passes legal muster and is implementable. I think the only thing worse than what the Honorable Chabane mentions is if a bill is passed and it gets tied down in legal processes for years or even decades in some cases, and ultimately becomes unimplementable. So we have to get this absolutely right. We have to make sure that the department is capable of implementing the measures that we want to take. And I'm confident that we can do that, certainly in this administration, agreeing with the honourable member that we should not leave things for the last second. And that's why this work is underway. And our commitment is to get it absolutely right so that it can withstand scrutiny at all levels. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Machi.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Minister, paragraph 9 of the white paper states that the department has no idea as to how many illegal immigrants are in South Africa, while paragraph 103 states that the sheer number of illegal foreigners in the country makes it impossible to detect all of them. Considering this, what are the expected outcomes and measures the white paper seeks to put in place in terms of clamping down on the influx of illegal immigrants at the local government? Thank you.
Honourable the Minister.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, indeed. This is an issue that is really of great concern. It's like asking how many illegal weapons are out there, how much illegal cigarettes is out there. By its nature, it is illegal. And therefore, it's not something that comes forward and says, detect me, find me. By its nature, it seeks to evade detection and the law. But that is exactly why we have to focus on this area. We have to build systems to detect. We have to make sure, in fact, that we have continuous ability to track and monitor and audit the number of illegal immigrants in South Africa. And there's really only one way to do this, Chair. You have to build an integrated system that is able to scan any document that someone may present to you, is able to detect whether that's a fraudulent document, and in the case of it not being a fraudulent document, is able to link with various other databases to check whether this person may have a criminal record or anything of that kind. And so that's where the big focus for us really lies, so that we build those systems, including by using the technology that's available in the year 2024 to be able to detect fraudulent documents, for example, much more rapidly. I would point out the recent case we had with the Miss SA issue. I mean, there's a case that dates back 23 years, and you cannot believe the amount of resources required to actually investigate and verify some of these things, because these were, even then, of course, more paper-based, more manual processes even than they are today. And so that just consumes a huge amount of resources. If we want to efficiently clamp down on illegal immigration, if we want to understand the scale and the extent of the problem, given that these are not people that come forward and say, please detect me, we're going to have to really invest very aggressively in building the technology to help us do that. And as I said, that's really part of the commitment. Thanks.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Ngubeni.
Thank you, Chair, honourable members. Thank you, Minister. I hear you saying, you want to get the process absolutely right. And while we are cognizant of the fact that the process for the white paper is underway, it must be concluded this year, but then of course the bill will come much later. But given the significant challenges currently faced by our country in managing immigration, including border management issues, that include security, illegal immigration, and the processing of asylum seekers, how does the timeline that you speak about for the development and implementation of the proposed overhaul align with the urgent need for these reforms? And furthermore, Minister, can you give definitive assurances to South Africans of the interim measures in place to address these pressing concerns while the white paper and the bill processes are underway? Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Before you take the floor, honourable members, you're reminded that follow-up questions are supposed to be a single topic and not subdivided. But Minister, you're welcome within your 2 minutes to take a bite at both cherries.
Thank you, Chair. No, I think it's an important issue. We can't wait, obviously, for a particular piece of legislation to pass and then deal with problems. So there is a huge amount of work that we have started doing and that will follow as the months progress to make sure that we put in place exactly the kind of system that I'm talking about. So, in fact, you know, a bill, and we've seen this so many times in our country, you can write a piece of legislation, you can write an excellent bill. The question is, how are you able to implement it? If we're talking in this bill about our ability to monitor movement at the borders, you can write the sentence, let's monitor movement at the borders. How are you actually going to do that? Especially in a context, Honorable Chair, where the Border Management Authority is underfunded by 4.3 billion rand. You hear that correctly, 4.3 billion rand. When you are dealing with an environment in Home Affairs that's got 40% of the staff component that it requires. So there's just no way that we must believe, as important as legislation is and these reforms are, that that alone is going to solve the problem. So we are very focused on the administration side, on the systems building side. And for that, we are currently in conversation with various stakeholders, people who can assist us with capacity, and we are looking very closely at how we can reform our internal processes to make sure that we start moving away from these vulnerable systems. I mean, again, just to use a recent example, Chair, the issue of the Libyans who came into this country, we are talking there about handwritten paper visas that someone was able to use with their pen, pick up this pen and write in that you can come into this country. The applications in some cases were not even complete. There was not a specific selection of, I want this kind of visa. And yet, because human discretion allows for people to make these decisions, in some cases at the whim, they were able to issue those documents. And noting further in this case that was actually an official from DIRCO. Why is that happening? We are reliant on a department like DIRCO because we don't have enough staff. So you really
Thank you,
are
Minister.
and we want to deal with that. Thank you.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Ghana.
Honourable Minister, there's the first safe country principle for asylum seekers. Do you believe that this is a principle worth pursuing? The first safe country principle. Do you believe that it is a principle worth pursuing for this country, and what are you going to do to ensure that it's realized? And secondly, do you believe that what we are dealing with in South Africa, it's a question of true asylum seekers, or we are dealing with economic migrants? Thank you.
The Minister.
I note the two cherries again, Chair, but it's fine. Just on the second part of the question, Honourable Member, we have to have systems in place to differentiate between the two. There's certainly, undoubtedly, too many cases of economic migrants who claim asylum, for example, when they would be arrested. And so we must differentiate from those cases and genuine asylum cases. But the principle there is correct, the first safe country principle. And this requires international coordination, because the truth is, if someone crosses 6, 7 borders in order to get to South Africa, and some of those countries would be classified as safe, then we're sitting with a problem because we can't eventually take on the whole world's problem. We have to coordinate with international partners to make sure that that principle is actually applied. And so that's why I think there's an important conversation to be had globally as well, with partners at the UN, for example, to say we know the world is dealing with various crises. We've got wars, we've got conflicts, we've got migration issues everywhere, but you can't just leave Africa and forget about migration in this continent, and specifically in the case of South Africa as a big receiver. And so I think we're going to have to do more in this administration to put pressure internationally as well and say you're going to have to come to the table, enforce those kind of principles as we go forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honourable Members, question number 62 has been asked by the Honourable Jonas to the Minister of Correctional Services. The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. The answer to the question is as follows. The conditions of service are determined through a negotiated process with organised labour unions, a process which guarantees that the interests of all racial groups are represented. The department has implemented various occupation-specific dispensations, or OSDs, which brought about unique salary structures that are fairly competitive for different occupational categories within the DCS. The Department of Correctional Services complies with the requirements of Section 21 of the Employment Equity Act, where its Employment Equity Annual Report depicting remuneration and benefits received in each occupational category at all levels of DCS workforce is submitted to the Director General of the Department of Employment and Labour for monitoring purposes. Sectoral agreements on the occupation-specific dispensations make provisions for career advancement through career pathing measures. These measures refer to pay progression to higher notches within the same grade and grade progression where movement is from a lower salary grade to the next higher grade based on satisfying the agreed requirements. That includes performance and years of service. In addition, the department also applies post-advertisement for promotion to higher posts, where any official who meets the advertised requirements may apply and be considered for appointment to such advertised post. It's open competition. The department does not have its own pension rules. Instead, it has been implementing rules of the government employees' pension funds insofar as it relates to the pension payouts. Thank you.
Honorable Jonas, you have the opportunity to ask the first supplementary question.
Thank you, Chair. With reference to the Police and Prison Civil Rights Union, march to the Union Building in 2022 to hand over a memorandum of demands for, amongst others, salary increase and decent living and working conditions. What measures does the Minister intend to put in place? A, ensure that correctional services employees do not face racial discrimination for occupational levels, but receive fair and competitive wages. And B, establish a transparent and effective model for promotions and pension payout. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, before I recognize you, Honorable Jonas, this was the question you submitted and which the Minister has already responded to. In terms of the rules, you have an opportunity to ask the first supplementary question. So there's no need to just repeat the question. If you have a supplementary, do ask.
Okay.
Honorable Member.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. My apologies to the Minister. We did not put a request for a supplementary question as it's indicated, so it was a mistake for him to ask the same question, but there was not a request for supplementary. Thank you.
Thank you. We will skip you. Just remember in future, if you are afforded an opportunity for a first, to ask the question, you automatically have the right to ask the first supplementary. Thank you.
Chairperson.
Yes.
But they are sitting together, most. They are not caucusing on this thing. It's embarrassing.
Honorable Mkalipi, all caucuses seem to have their problems these days. Let's move on. The next opportunity to ask a supplementary question is that of the Honorable Moela.
Thank you, House Chair. The follow-up question will be to the Minister that following the strike of Pop Crew in 2002 and the disaffection of members of the trade union, what steps has the department taken to boost the morale of the staff in this regard? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Firstly, I said in a previous question, I spoke to all the personnel from head office, about 2,000, and to uplift the morale, I said to them that each and every one of us must play the role. And I've referred to say, let's get rid of the bad apples, because it's those bad apples that also affects the good apples that are hardworking people with integrity. And it starts with consequence management. I also said that they can come forward with problems, and referring, for instance, to Pop Crew. I am going to meet with them one of these days to see how we can ensure that our people are protected against discrimination. Although we must also say this to each other, the declaration of intent when it comes to the government of national unity, it is quite clear that we say that when we appoint people, it must be on merit, based on experience, based on, for instance, qualifications, and we must ensure that we get the best person in that position. That's part of the declaration of intent, and that's what I'm going to do in the department that already started doing. Thank you.
Thank you. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Klopper.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Pertaining to the Civil Rights March in 2022, and considering wages are at best average for correctional service facility officials, considering the circumstances in which they work, will increases in danger pay specifically be implemented in the remuneration structures for correctional service officials, considering the dangerous and daunting circumstances that they work under, or will these concerns go unaddressed? Thank you, Honourable.
The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's fair to say that we must look into that specific matter when it comes to endangered situations or danger situations. And what I think, and what I already asked, for instance, is that I want the statistics on all the employees who are, for instance, in a specific position for the last 10 years, 10 to 20 years, 20 to 30 years, and I want to see whether there was increases in their salary, what type of increases, were they also promoted to higher categories or not? Because I think you cannot have a person, say for 20 to 30 years in a specific position, and there are only very small, can I say, increases in payment. We will have to look into that, and that's why I said we're going to meet with Pop Crew as well to see how we can ensure that specific our wardens who are actually in a dangerous position. We had a couple of cases where they were attacked by inmates with sharp objects, and we will have to make a differentiation. But I will follow that process quite due.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Diale.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, the Pop Crew march to the Union Building in 2022 entailed more than just the narrow-colored nationalism that the PA seeks to portray. The march sought to address some key operational and policy shortcomings at SAPS, including the need for tackling rampant overcrowding, gangsterism, and corruption in our correctional service facilities that had made it difficult for officials to maintain law and order. What we need to know, Minister, is since assuming office, what step have you undertaken to specifically deal with gangsterism and at correctional facilities, which is making it harder to maintain order at these facilities? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Part of maintaining order is, as I said, there must be consequence management. And I see consequence management as part of the situation where there are contraventions of certain rules and there are personnel involved with that who are complicit. Then to ensure better order, then there must be actions and consequences for those personnel. The problem is impunity. And actually, impunity is the problem of whole of South Africa, where our criminal justice system is at stake. So I strongly believe the moment you have good, fair, and just consequence management, you will improve the situation and have better order. I thank you.
Thank you. Honourable members, question number 34 has been asked by the Honourable Kohler to the Minister in the Presidency. The Minister.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Although kidnapping for ransom has been identified as one of the modus operandi used by terrorist actors in South Africa and globally, the more than 50 daily kidnappings in South Africa relate to various criminal activities, including extortion rackets. So the kidnapping for ransom specifically to fund terrorist activities in the country remain unconfirmed. We are currently attending to 23 suspected cases. Criminal investigations into the kidnapping for ransom cases, including with links with terrorism financing, are ongoing and have been prioritized. These investigations form part of a concerted effort to address key deficiencies in South Africa's anti-money laundering and countering terrorism financing regime as identified by the Financial Action Task Force, which resulted in South Africa being grade-listed. And therefore, the State Security Agency, along with other relevant departments, remain at work to identify, investigate, and when appropriate, to assist in preparation of cases for prosecution to counter sources of terror financing. The SSA continues to strengthen its counterterrorism capabilities and its capacity to counter the financing of terrorism financing through specialized recruitment, specialized training, technical assistance with relevant private sector institutions, and close cooperation and coordination with both domestic and foreign law enforcement agencies, including non-security cluster departments. As part of strengthening of capabilities, the SSA has finalized and is currently implementing the National Countering the Financing of Terrorism Strategy and the Targeted Financial Sanctions Operational Framework. And furthermore, the SSA, in the second part of the question, is not responsible for arrest or prosecution of any cases. However, the SSA continues to fulfill its threat detection mandate by identifying threats relating to terrorism financing and elevating this to relevant authorities and departments for court-driven investigations and prosecution. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honourable Kohler, you have the opportunity to ask the first supplementary question.
Thank you, Chair. Ministers generally agree that the blame for the fact that extortion syndicates are running rampant within our country, be it kidnapping, construction, water, school, hospital, and clinic mafias, lies at the feet of our intelligence agencies, the State Security Agency, crime intelligence, and to a lesser extent, defense intelligence. Now, it's globally known that there is financing of terrorist groups flowing out of South Africa, perhaps via these rackets. Is it that the agencies have chosen not to do anything for all these years, or are they incapable of doing it?
The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. As indicated in my earlier reply, we continue to strengthen our capability, and it's because terror financing and terrorism on its own continues to change its own modus operandi. So it's a matter of continuous change and improvement on our system. As I've indicated, even with the grey listing, we have managed to get a new strategy approved that it integrates, and the operational framework on strategic targeted financing. It includes the ability to designate those who finance terror and also to sanction those who finance terror from our country. So that work continues. There are other announcements that will be made when the team has reported on the grey list, on the work we're doing on grey listing, which is the integrated team that is led by Department of Finance, SSA, the SA Police Services, and the Department of Justice, the entities within the Department of Justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Makubela.
Angibonge, House Chairperson. Phathiswa, amaphoyisa abike kuthi kule tinyanga letisithupha letengcile osomabhizinisi labalishumi nakubili, 12, kanye nebantwana lababafundzi labasithupha bebathunjiwe ngenhloso yokuthi kutholakale imali. Basitwe ke ngileli thimba leli tihlaka letahlukahlukene, which is multidisciplinary.
leli holwa lithimba lemaphoyisa aseNingizimu Afrika kuthi basitakale. Tshela thina ke mphathiswa kuze kuthi nalabo basemakhaya beve kuthi ngutiphi tinhlaka lo tisekele wena ulithimba le State Security Agency kuthi unikete emaphoyisa naletinye tikhungo temthetho kuthi kulwisane nalobugebengu
Thank you, honorable member.
ngekuthi bantu bafune tigidzi tetimali.
Thank you. Yeah, before we hand over to the minister, it would seem translation services was not assisting us when this question was asked. So if we can please attend to that. Honorable Minister.
Honorable House Chair, my sortie is not very bad, but there was a part that I missed when she says Utsimba. Litsimba. The team. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the translation services, the in-house translation services. Honorable House Chair, we continue to work with the multidisciplinary team of the police, and that's why we call them intelligence-driven operations. And that's why I have specified 23 cases that we've been working on, and the Minister of Police will soon make major announcements on breakthrough cases on the kidnapping for ransoms that have to be taken not only to court, but which we think with that crackdown will get into the root of the kidnapping for ransom
Honorable
cases.
Minister, my apologies to interrupt you. There is a hand on the virtual platform of the, I can't see that far, unfortunately. The Honorable Souls.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. My hand was raised before the minister stood up, so it is not on the minister. But I wanted just for you to note, House Chair, that us who are online totally have no interpretation service, so we are unable to follow the proceedings properly. Just for noting.
Thank you. In this case, you were not worse off than those in the chamber, but we have asked that be looked into. Honorable Minister, were you done or was there still a part?
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. And it's a pity that my train of thought has been a bit disorganized. But in terms of the work that we're doing, the police will make the necessary announcement, and we're confident that with the work done in terms of kidnapping for ransom, we will also be able to prosecute on the matters. I do not want to preempt that work, but it's a part of ensuring and dealing with the case, also the matter that was raised by Honorable Kola Barnard, that we are being effective in dealing with terrorism and counter-terrorism work, including the extortions, including the other rings. If you recall, the Minister of Police announced work that is being done for the extortion groupings, whether they are water tanker groups, whether they are construction mafias and all others. So we have teams, multidisciplinary teams across the country, and we are going to have the handle of things and get a crack of things as soon as, Honorable Member. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Khadebe.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Minister, what proactive action has your department taken to ward off the targeting of South African citizens for kidnapping by foreign nationals, international syndicates, and terrorist groups? And whether does your department considers it a threat to national security? Thank you.
The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. In terms of the National Intelligence Estimate and also National Intelligence Priorities, terrorism, including kidnappings and extortions, are band 1 priorities, and we should soon release the National Intelligence Estimate for the country so that the country understands the kind of work that we are doing and the challenges that the country focuses on, because national security is everybody's responsibility. As indicated earlier, we continue to work with the police, the prosecution.
Honorable Minister, my apologies. I'm going to do it to you again. There is now a hand of the Honorable Skosana on the virtual platform. Honorable Skosana.
Thank you, House Chair, and to the Minister. Honorable House Chair, this issue which is not resolved now. Again, the issue of interpreters.
Yeah,
You know,
Honorable
we can't,
Skosana, but
no, but we can't go
can
on
I just
like this.
ask you to pause there? I don't think it's in the best interest of the oral question session for us to come into this matter whilst the minister is on the floor. I will come back to you just after the minister has concluded, please. Thanks. Honorable, the minister, my apologies.
Honorable House Chair, I want to plead that if there's a hand on the platform, I'll be allowed to complete the response and then you entertain the hand because it's quite disruptive in terms of.
The difficulty is it might be a point of order, Honorable Minister, but please proceed.
As earlier indicated, Honorable House Chair, that we continue to work with the multidisciplinary teams and providing the intelligence work for the targeted efforts that we are on this area. As I've indicated, we will soon release the National Intelligence Estimate and the National Intelligence Priorities as approved by the Cabinet for the country to understand the type of national security threats that we are dealing with, and also the concomitant responses and work that is being done by the multidisciplinary law enforcement teams to respond to those threats. And we continue to plead and call upon all South Africans to respond and assist the law enforcement agencies when dealing with crime, including the extortion rings. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Skosana. Well, we move on.
Yes, Honorable Chair. Oh, are you bringing me back now? I'm saying this issue is unbecoming. We can't be complaining about interpreters all the time. We are told we don't have interpreters. People at home wants to listen. People want to listen. With all these other languages are being prioritized.
Thank you, Honorable Skosana. Yeah, we take note of your point. It's not that there is no interpretation services available today. There was just some technical difficulties, but ICT is attending to that. Thank you. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Saleh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minister, the International Court of Justice has found Israel to be responsible for apartheid policies. The United Nations declared Israel an apartheid state in June 2024. South Africa signed the International Convention on the Suppression and Punishment of the Crime of Apartheid. During apartheid South Africa, our freedom fighters and liberation movements were branded terrorist, and many were put on trial for terrorism, amongst other charges. What steps is the State Security Agency taking against Zionist South Africans who financially support acts of terrorism against Palestinians and those who join the Israeli Defense Force to perpetrate acts of terrorism in occupied Palestine? Thank you.
Thank you. Before you take the floor, Honorable Minister, Honorable Souls, your hand is raised again. Is it a new matter? We have responded to the issue of the translation services.
No, Honorable Chair, but I think you were somewhat misguided as to how this took place. I raised the hand online. I think there's a delay. So you responded whilst the minister was on the floor, and it looked like we interrupted the minister. So I want to apologize to the minister, but I think there's a delay online. I raised my hand online long before the minister. So you only recognized it during the minister. So apologies to the minister. It wasn't meant to interrupt her.
Okay, thank you. Honorable the Minister.
Apology accepted. And on the question of terrorism and the designation and classification of terrorism, there are two factors. The first one is that South Africa is a signatory to the relevant UN conventions. Therefore, the designation of terrorist organization and terrorist is as per the UN, in line with the UN convention, including our own framework for the operational framework that we use. Our designation of terrorists is in line with what the UN prescribes as terrorists. We are not responding to any designation by any other country except that which South Africa has determined in line with the United Nations. And in terms of that work, everyone who violates and qualifies to be designated in terms of the United Nations framework and the South African operational framework as a terrorist will be deemed as such and treated as such, and the money flows are going to be blocked as such. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Before we move on to the next supplementary question, I believe the Honourable Skosana has again raised her hand.
Yes, Honourable Chair, thank you so much. Once again, I want you to put this on record. There's vacancy on this language I'm talking about, Siswati and Ndebele. There's vacancy in Ndebele. The lady has retired. She has retired. And Siswati, there's no one. There's no technical issues here. We should not be misleading the House. There's vacancy. There's no one as we speak. I'm asking you, Chair, that this matter has to be addressed as a matter of urgency.
Thank you, Honourable Skosana. We will look into that. Honourable members, we proceed.
Address it, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Honourable Skosana. Obviously, if there's vacancies, they must be attended to urgently. May I also plead that you lobby your whip to take this matter to the Chief Whip's Forum so that we don't take away from the time the executive is to account by way of answering questions any longer. Honourable members, question number 14 has been asked by the Honourable Dikgale to the Minister in the Presidency. The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. The principal responsibility of the State Security Agency, as indicated in the National Strategic Intelligence Act of 1994, is to provide government with intelligence or counterintelligence on domestic and foreign threats or potential threats to national security, security of the Republic or its people. In doing so, the SSA plays a crucial role in supporting law enforcement agencies in the fight against crime and corruption, which threaten the authority of the state. In this regard, intelligence products are shared with the National Intelligence Coordinating Committee, NICOC, and its other principal members who are crime intelligence of SAPS and the defense intelligence. But we also share information with the South African Police Service directly and also the National Joint Operational and Intelligence Structures. But also we share intelligence with departments that are concerned on the matter that we pick up. So SSA regularly provides intelligence to departments of the state as and when required or when the matters arise. In intensifying efforts to fight crime, the SSA plays a counterintelligence role on departmental intelligence by conducting countermeasures against espionage, sabotage and subversion, security vetting, security advising, security investigation, and securing of government events, and the provision of security awareness within departments. To improve on intelligence sharing and coordination through the NICOC, the Minister, after consultation with the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence of the 6th Parliament, gazetted the regulations for intelligence coordination in April 2024, 4 years since time immemorial. And the SSA gathers intelligence with the purpose of countering crimes and supporting other structures such as the South African Police Service, the Directorate of Priority Crime Investigation, and others. This is done through the provision of forewarning and insight, as well as developing intelligence on proactive measures against crime by identifying, profiling, and investigating criminal individuals or groupings and networks that are involved in crime. The SSA also takes part in crime fighting joint operations and investigations with its counterparts with the aim of prosecuting identified criminal networks operating within and outside the borders of South Africa. In this regard, the SSA liaises with intelligence and security services of other countries within the Southern African region, SADC, African continent, and the rest of the world with the aim of countering transnational organized crime. Thank you.
Thank you. The first opportunity to ask a supplementary question is that of the Honourable Dikgale.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. The Honourable Minister, the coordination of intelligence work on the states was found to be one of the weaknesses during the 2021 July unrest. What is the assessment of the Minister with regard to the level of coordination of the intelligence community? Thank you.
The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, House Chair. Indeed, there was a problem with the coordination of intelligence that led to the challenges of the July 2021. But since we took over with the responsibility, we have worked with NICOC and the other principal members of NICOC to make sure that we've got the National Intelligence Coordination regulations, which are the first since the establishment of SSA, to make sure that we coordinate intelligence. That has resulted in improvement in the coordination of work. It's for that reason that members would have noticed that whenever the police are acting, they indicate that it's intelligence driven. The mechanism of sharing intelligence has also improved, but also the functionality of the JCPS cluster, the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security cluster, has improved, and matters of intelligence are also discussed in that forum so that we can then improve that coordination. And it's for that reason that we've been able to deal with a number of issues. You know, there were threats towards the election, both the election itself and also the post-election environment. But because of the intelligence work, we were able to thwart those before the threats materialized. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Kohler.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, there's a saying that one swallow does not a summer make. One massive drug bust via crime intelligence actually shows the magnitude of the problem rather than being an end to the issue. The fact that we have drug labs set up at upmarket estates all around the country, that we have no X-ray machines checking trucks driving who knows what in and out of the country, that generally government technology is so out of date. It does seem that our intelligence agencies and services are expected to achieve miracles with their budgets being slashed and their hands tied behind their backs. What's the solution?
The Honorable the Minister. Thank you, Honorable House Chair. I think today my sin is to sit next to the Minister of Police and the Minister of Home Affairs because I'm saddled with questions that must be sent to my colleagues. It's indeed, we require technology, as the Minister of Home Affairs referred to earlier, to enhance some of the work. At the SSA, we are improving our technology capability to make sure that we respond. And that technology capability does not mean SSA must develop that capability, but must also have access to that capability. There is important capability that the country has that sits in the CSIR, for instance, that we are going to be able to have access to that technology and review, which will improve some of the work that we are doing. But internally, we are working to enhance that capability. We also, given the level of cooperation, we are able to work and have access to what the police can see, what Home Affairs can see, and what other departments can see, more especially those that are technology driven. We are integrating our work to be able to have a view of the whole country at a life level, and that detail will be provided to the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence as and when it's established. And we also take note of the issue around the budget of cyber security and technology related within SSA. We are working with the management team to review and that budget, and we'll do the necessary submissions when the time is due. Thank you.
Thank you. The third supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Mente.
Asbonge, House Chair. No, Minister, it's good to hear that there is some integration taking place between your department and the other departments, because earlier on, we heard from National Treasury that the issue of the 30% policy is not their law or their policy. And this is what is being used on the ground to stop a lot of projects and service delivery for our people. We see waste not being collected because waste trucks are being intimidated. Construction sites are being intimidated and all of that. How do you get involved there to curb such horrible crime? And secondly, we saw people setting up military camps in South Africa. People of Nelspruit and surrounding woke up one day to some men that were intimidating young women.
Honorable Mente,
and
unfortunately, your time has
businesses.
expired.
What was your role there? Thank you.
The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. I'll deal with a question that is relevant to the first question, which is the question of what are we dealing with to deal with extortion rings, the construction mafias, the water tank mafias and related, as indicated earlier. Jointly with the police, we've got multidisciplinary teams that are focusing on that work specifically, and we have targeted high priority areas that are largely affected, and that detail in terms of the work of state security will be provided to the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. The police do not report, they only report when they make arrests. Thank you.
Thank you. The last supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Sibi. Oh, it's Honorable Ghana.
Minister, on that very point, would you say yourself, Minister, that the proliferation of these extortion rackets points to the failure of the domestic branch of state security agency? Or is it a success?
The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you. I do not understand how the domestic branch of state security agency gets affected, gets to be a failure because there are extortion rings. And if you go to the reasons why you had extortion rings, it's people who were economically disadvantaged and opportunistically use those opportunities to then become destructive in the country. And that's why they go and claim that they want 30% in the business that they do not even have capacity to deliver on. It has nothing to do with a domestic branch. The responsibility that we have as a country is to make sure we build an economy that young people and other people who do not have opportunities for access to economy can then not be exploited by criminals and criminal syndicates for their nefarious means. And that is the real issue that the government of national unity has made an apex priority of making an economy that works, but also creating employment so that young people do not become victims of opportunists, criminal opportunists. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Question number 25 has been asked by the Honorable S.R. Moodley to the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I want to indicate that I have a bad flu and this aircon is not making my life easy. If I'm unable to continue, the Deputy Minister will be able to continue, but I'll try. So, Chair, the Defense Intelligence does form part of the government interagency that is collaborating in pursuit of identifying all establishments and activities that may pose a national threat to the Republic of South Africa. So in line with the Defense Intelligence mandate, the Department of Intelligence does continue to identify any imminent threat to military nature in defense of the Republic of South Africa. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable S.R. Moodley.
House Chair, you know, what do you call a country with no border? Not a country. It's like leaking like a sieve. People are coming in and out of this country. The people that had these private armies were foreign nationals. They weren't from this country. So how safe are our people? Honorable Minister, your response fails to detail who is protecting our borders, while a significant portion of our forces is deployed elsewhere, like missions, peace missions. Bring them back home. Let them take care of our borders so that our borders are safe so people can't infiltrate and our people will be safe. We're spending taxpayers' money trying to fight other people's war. We're deploying people elsewhere. Can you provide exact numbers and a strategy to ensure that South Africa's borders are secure against potential external threats, given that we are mandated by the people to prioritize national security? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Before I take the Honorable Minister, there's a hand on the virtual platform. Honorable Kwankwa.
House Chair, my apologies. I've been advised that there were one or two instances where I unintentionally unmuted myself while the House proceedings were on. It was a mistake. I apologize. I just wanted to say that.
Oh, apology accepted. The Honorable the Minister.
No, Chair. I didn't hear the question. I heard the statement that they must come home, we're not safe. I thought the follow-up would be a question, so sizwile ke. Awubakho umbuzo ongibuze wona.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable MD Leguete.
Thank you very much, House Chair.
Honorable members, please, can we listen to the speaker on the, thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair, for your protection. And thank you very much also to the Minister for guaranteeing us that our territorial integrity and sovereignty is still intact. Just as a follow-up question to you, as the member of the executive, from me and us as the oversight authority, we would like, can you, Honorable Minister, elaborate on any additional strategies being developed to strengthen oversight and prevent similar security risks in the future, particularly in relation to private entities or private security companies involved in military training or semi-military security-related activities that undermines our territorial integrity and sovereignty?
The Honorable the Minister.
No, Chair. Defense intelligence main function is to secure borders, to gather intelligence on imminent threats to the country, but also in terms of our borders. It is the work of integrated intelligence that collects up information. So we are part of that body. So we don't do it alone as a body. We are part of the integrated intelligence, and it is the Inspector General of Intelligence broadly who does those surveillance, and as a team work with him. So working together, it's what we continuously do on a daily basis to make sure that there are no internal threats and external threats, internally led by by Inspector General, on our own, just looking at military threats of people attacking the country, not operating illegal camps.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. If maybe you do feel that you are being affected, maybe as you had said before, we can then give over to the Deputy Minister to take over with regards to questions, because I can hear when you are answering that there is a struggle with your throat. The third supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Harting.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Taking into account the severe financial constraints throttling the SANDF, the impact that it has on training, on the maintenance and procurement of equipment, and in general, the SANDF's restricted operational capacity, and the current DRC, Mozambique, and border deployments, can the Minister give the assurance that the SANDF will be able to successfully deploy 25,000 capable, fully equipped and supported soldiers on a short notice in a situation that threatens South Africa's safety and security, as was the case during the Zuma riots, claiming the lives of more than 350 people?
The Honorable the Minister.
I can assure. So I can give you that assurance, which we will be able to do it.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable L.W. Mahlatsi. Honorable members, please can we give an opportunity to a member that is asking a question so that we are able to hear all the responses. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Minister. Regarding the White River military camp in Mpumalanga province, within the framework of counterintelligence, it is indisputable that the entire intelligence community has been compromised. Now, the question I'm asking is that, have you carried out the nationwide threat assessment
to ensure the absence of a similar terrorist camp. Thank you.
The Honorable the Minister.
Actually, fortunately, the Minister of Intelligence is here. So if you don't mind, Chair, ngicela ngilekelele, but the General can also answer. In the land, hunting, or the military intelligence, or now Minister of Intelligence. If the chairperson allows,
Honorable members, there is Rule 135 that if the question is not relevant to the department, it does not apply to the minister. But the minister is doing a courtesy of saying the Minister of Intelligence is here. Maybe he can respond to that. If you don't then want that response, because it is not all of you who asked the question, it's Honorable Mahlatsi who asked that question. So it can't be all of us responding to the minister, please. Honorable Mahlatsi.
Thank you, Chair. No pressure, Minister, because if you hear my question, it is based on intelligence community, which comprise of the SNDF, the SAA, and the SAPS, but specifically in the framework or in the context of counterintelligence. So the whole community can answer if they want.
And you know, questions of intelligence are not answered in the House, so, but no, it's true. Or announce kanjani induct. But that we can give you say on an ongoing basis. This surveillance is being done to make sure that we can protect the country, and we can tell you of so many incidents that have been counteracted in good time. But as you say, some of them will go through the cracks. But there is an ongoing work which happens under intelligence for internal threats to protect the country, but also external threats. So.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Question number 59 has been asked by the Honorable B.J. Mkhwebane to the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. The total number of statutory rape cases that have been successfully prosecuted as per the question in the period of April 2023 to the end of March 2024 is 166. Of course, Honorable House Chair, I must put a rider that we do not keep the statistics, both ourselves as a department and as the NPA. So what then we did, so we could be of assistance to the House, we extracted the information from the electronic case management system, which we jointly have got access as the GCPS cluster. And then the breakdown for the period of March 2024 to August was 251. And the outcomes in the cases that have been handed over that have dealt with the first in the 166 period, those were the cases, the first part of the question which were reported, and the conviction rate is at about 148 out of the 166 for that period. And direct imprisonment was 37.8. So during the period of March to then August, the 251 case, the conviction was 227 cases with a conviction rate of about 90%. But one Honorable House Chair must appreciate that the capturing of statistics within the criminal justice cluster in its entirety does prove to be a difficulty. For example, murder, even if it relates to gender-based, may still be categorized as murder, and you need to go out through the records on how the conviction has been made. So a system of ensuring that the two tally, but also are properly identified in how they relate could be of assistance. But this is how far we've attempted to respond to the question of Honorable Mkhwebane.
Thank you. The first supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Tambo.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Mayor, we have a lot of school children under the age of 16 years who gave birth during this financial year, and the youngest being 10 years old. What measures, including legislative changes, etc., are being planned to prevent statutory rape and support victims in our community? Thank you.
The Honorable the Minister.
Well, I don't believe we have statutory problems. We've got compliance problem. Firstly, from reporting or possibly holding the parents or families where protection of such crimes happen in household and they get to be not reported, or victims are encouraged, if reported, to withdraw such crimes, and families believe they will need to resolve them amongst themselves. And I do believe that the system in this instance does protect the rights of the children, even in how the cases have been heard. And in some instances, of course, though minimal, the children themselves, through the educational program, have got access on how to report using the next of kin, including educators, psychologists, nurses who oversee or treat such cases. I think it could be more of a public education enhancements, particularly to the young children themselves, to be able to understand when they are being violated and what does the Constitution protect them, their rights in terms of not being violated.
Thank you. The second supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Hassan.
Thank you very much, House Chair, and to yourself, Minister, for a very comprehensive response. But perhaps just as a follow-up question, what collaboration does this department have with the Department of Basic Education to deal with sexual assault and statutory rape amongst learners who become pregnant below the age of 16? Thank you.
The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. As I've slightly touched it, the collaboration between the Department of Education, between the Department of Health, between the Department of Social Development in terms of assistance, including our magistrate courts that deals with our maintenance clerks and officers to deal with that. If I'm recalling, for example, the report by head, which is also stated in this Statistician General, in the past financial year, we had around 100 and something children between the age of 10 to 19 years who dropped out of school, of which 700 were between the age of 10 and 15 or 10 to 14 years. The collaboration is there and can also be enhanced. One, the improvement of the basic regulations in terms of access of the girls to continue to be able to go to school and be assisted by educators. Challenges, yes, do arise that because educators are not necessarily trained to be of assistance when such a need for maternal care comes for at school or during school hours. But our learners are allowed to continue with their education. They are assisted through the department. In most of the instances, the cases that are reported from the Department of Education and the Department of Health. The challenges we have are with the cases where it's not necessarily learners, but it's young people because families do protect in some instances that, or the children who drop out without really an explanation and a relocation to other areas, which defeats the system in terms of understanding what are the issues. And again, I think the issue of collaboration is of importance. The issue of education and educating our young children and girls is of importance.
Thank you. The third supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Khobisa Ngaba.
Minister, I'd like to give you a chance to reconsider your answer to Honorable Tambo. The stats you gave, from what I can hear, maths is not strong. It sounds like less than 2/3 are prosecuted. It sounds like less than a quarter get prison sentences. Now, I also heard you blaming families, and then I heard you saying the department is doing enough. Are you really satisfied with those statistics? And do you think you're living up to the constitutional duty to put the best interests of children of paramount importance?
Honorable the Minister.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure what is the clapping before I could even respond. But nonetheless, it is okay. Well, I understand you clapped to a question. Well, that's very interesting. Honorable House Chair, I did explain that we have extracted the information, firstly. So simply, if we were a ministry which didn't want to assist and honestly respond, we should have said the question is not necessarily relevant to the department. I did mention that we extracted from the system. I gave the numbers of what the system has extracted. 2, we are at the end of the criminal justice cluster. An act happens, an investigation happens after reporting, prosecution happens. So if cases are minimally reported, you cannot prosecute what is not in court. We could not be able to come across any which suggest there are more cases in the system which are categorized. I further elaborated that there is a weakness, yes, in system that in some instances, cases may not necessarily be recorded as statutory rape, but may be recorded as rape, or may not be aligned in terms of the age. So if the system has given figures in your view that are not correct, I may not be able to be helpful to the question. So the question of how many were then reported, we pulled into the system and we looked into the outcome of what are the issues that are there. Remember, a conviction rate and an imprisonment imposed are two different things. You could be found guilty and be given a fine. You could be found guilty and have direct imprisonment. So in the conviction, for example, of
Honorable
March
Minister,
2024.
Your time has expired. The last supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Webster.
Thank you, House Chair. Part of the reason why there's a call for the National Register of Sex Offenders to be made public is for the protection of children. And so that isn't the case at the moment. So I'll ask a question that relates to the register as it stands now with the status that it has. When you talk about the prosecutions that you're talking about now, how many of those prosecutions, of those who are prosecuted, are repeat offenders who actually sit on that National Register for Sex Offenders as it is now?
The Honorable Minister.
Honorable House Chair, I may not have the exact figures and I will request to refer back on that part of the question so that I'm truthful to the House. The register is open, but I don't have a direct response when your question is directly to say how many repeat offenders. I need to be able to go back to the system and look for the repeat offenders and categorize the numbers that I've given to the House. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Question number 17 has been asked by Honorable Mukwena to the Minister of Police. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, House Chair. South African Police Service has established some time ago a forum called a National Forum for Municipal / Metropolitan Police Services, and they are abbreviated as MPSs. It includes relevant structures such as civilian secretariat,
Honorable Mkalipi, please do not disturb the minister while he is giving a response. Continue, Honorable Minister.
Yeah, it includes, among others, civilian secretariat for police services, the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, the Road Traffic Management Corporation, the Road Traffic Infringement Agency, the South African Local Government Association. So these are the forums, and there are quite a number of them. The main objective of the forum includes identification of challenges which may hamper effective service delivery by the MPSs, to deliver mechanisms to remove the challenges, and to take decisions aimed at enhancing coordination and cooperation among stakeholders by ensuring the effective utilization of resources in the performance of law enforcement functions. Honorable members may be aware that over and above this, we've initiated an agreement. We call it cooperation agreement across the spheres of government, national, provincial, and local, because we want to increase personnel, share resources, and increase and tap on each other's resources. But the main thing is to align all the anti-crime forces against criminals at whatever level. Now, to further enhance adequate collaboration between SAPS and MPSs, the forum developed an implementation collaboration strategies in 2019, and a memorandum of understanding was agreed on. And it also provides oversight for IPID. But during July 2024, Minister of Police, as I've said, we have initiated this new body, all of which are aimed at fighting crime on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. The first supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Mokoena.
Thank you, Chair. Section 205, subsection 2 of the Constitution provides that the national legislation must establish the powers and function of the police service and must enable the police service to discharge its responsibilities effectively, taking into account the requirements of the provinces. And Section 206, subsection 1, further provides that a member of the cabinet must be responsible for policing and must determine the national policing policy after consulting the provincial government and taking into account the policing needs and priorities of the provinces as determined by the provincial executive. Honorable Minister, is there any limitation in law for the collaborative and coordinated approach between the spheres of government to fight corruption and ensure the safety of the people? I thank you.
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. Where we are at the moment, we're at an advanced stage of completing the policing policy in the country. When we started the 7th administration, there was a draft which was not complete, and then which is now at a very advanced stage. Once it is completed, it will then enable provinces to make inputs in accordance with that policy, and will collaborate accordingly once that policy is completed and indicates how the provinces will play their role, and they will have an opportunity to also participate and make inputs. Thank you.
Thank you. The second supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Chikaling.
Thank you, House Chair. Thank you, Minister, for that. I would just like to ask, I've heard you speak a lot about policy, but policy doesn't work on the ground. How frequently do the SAPS and the local and/or metro police meet to discuss crime trends, share intelligence and coordinate strategies, and conduct joint strategy sessions and training sessions to ensure all units are familiar with each other's procedures and strategies? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister.
I've just covered an area in that question by saying we have, let me make this example. On Friday this week, we are signing a cooperative agreement with Western Cape government and the Metro in particular. And the reason for that is to collaborate. The reason for that is to share information. The reason for that is to align all the resources that we have as a state across the spheres of government. We'll go on to Eastern Cape, do the same. In Gauteng, do the same. Wherever there are metro police, because that's a resource available to the state. But what has been happening is a situation where there's no collaboration, there's no alignment. And therefore we fight the same battle, but we don't know each other. We don't know who is doing what. Now align, and this will then enhance capacity for the state as a whole to fight crime together across the spheres of government. It will also include even private companies that will be selected. And it will involve communities via CPFs, as it were, so that we all line up this side of the fence and we leave criminals on the other side of the fence. Thank you.
Thank you. The third supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Adams. There's no Adams. Okay, we are passing. The last supplementary question will be asked by Honorable James.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair. Minister, SAPS holds the authoritative mandate in terms of law enforcement. However, I'm concerned that a us and them syndrome has developed in communities and police stations across South Africa. Let me give you some examples where SAPS refuses to work with MPDs because they feel that they are paid more than what they are being paid as SAPS members. They have access to overtime and SAPS members. So these are just some of the realities on the ground, as well as the difference in governments in terms of you have an MMC from a different party, and that MMC wants to take the credit and shine, and not the brigadier at the station. So those are the realities. This is particularly worrying, as it often hampers collaboration and joint efforts to combat crime due to the lack of effective cooperation from all these peers. My question to you is, what is your plan to address this issue and ensure that beyond just law enforcement, cooperation in joint operations, there is a sustained inclusion? I heard you speaking about
Honorable James,
on, and I'm glad
your time has
inclusion
expired.
of communities, NGOs,
Honorable
and
James,
activists. Thank you.
your time has expired. The Honorable Minister.
Well, just with due respect to yourself, over and above what I've said, I will again respond. The initiative that we are taking aims to resolve exactly those problems where in a particular police station there's no alignment because police are this and that, as you say. It is now to make sure that we work together, the police, and not just with metro police where there are metro police, but also go further to work with organized anti-crime community formations on the ground, and we're identifying them. That is why we are going to be going initially to the 4 provinces that are crime-ridden: Western Cape, Eastern Cape, and then Gauteng. And I know you want us to prioritize Gauteng, and then KZN. If you could control, reasonably control crime in those 4, the country is with all likelihood follow in terms of reduced criminality in the country. So the initiatives that we are taking go down to the ground. All formations, of course, we'll select so that we make sure we don't get unnecessarily infiltrated. But that's the aim, so that all of us get involved in fighting crime, because we know better. Those criminals come from amongst ourselves. We even worship them. There are people who are well known now in communities just for criminality, and they've become popular and they are known and they are feared. This is what we want to deal with.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Question number 41 has been asked by the Honorable Chikaling. to the Minister of Police, the Honorable Minister.
The response is that there are no dockets that were stolen from any specific police station in Limpopo, none. The 26 dockets in question were stolen during 3 separate incidents of theft of a motor vehicle. The first incident occurred when the state vehicle from Seshego Family Violence, Sexual Offense and Child Protection Unit was broken into and 15 case dockets were stolen. 7 case dockets were stolen out of a Leboa Khomo FCS state vehicle in the second incident. And the third incident was also a theft out of a motor vehicle where 4 case dockets were stolen out of a state vehicle of the Provincial Serial Electronic Crime Investigation Unit. The FSC, Provincial SECI units are serving different stations around the province. That is the reason that the dockets from different stations were stolen during the incident. Cases of theft out of motor vehicles were opened for all 3 incidents, and all 26 dockets were fully reconstructed by investigating officers and are being attended to. The following immediate measures are put in place to prevent any losses in the future. 1, registration and management of case dockets, and are handled according to the National Instruction 3 of 2011, registration case dockets of the Crime Administration System, and National Instruction 13 of 2017, case docket management. 2, all case dockets opened on the community service centers in police stations are inspected for correctness by the floor manager by completing SAPS 6 checklist, and the contents case dockets are scanned to preserve the information, which include but not limited to the cover of the case docket and the statement from the victim or complainant. Lastly, the station commanders were instructed to ensure that all case dockets that are registered are discussed during Station Crime Combating Forum to ensure that charges were correctly formulated and all cases accounted for. Thank you.
Thank you. The first supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Chikaling.
Thank you, ma'am. It's very strange to me that the dockets that were all stolen all relate to rape and GBV and nothing else in Limpopo, but nevertheless, we are very much aware that the investigating officers are very overburdened in our country. I mean, we know that they sit between 400 and 500 cases each. It is a heavy caseload. The loss of stolen dockets has definitely raised a concern since 2004. It's not a new thing. And it is a serious issue that undermines the foundations of our criminal justice system. Minister, what has the outcome been of IPID investigations into these losses? And what findings were made by the Directorate into its investigation into the theft and loss of case dockets at SAPS stations? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister.
Well, again, I've just indicated the measures that we're taking in terms of making sure that we preserve or even prevent any further losses of dockets. But over and above this, we note that SAPS is quite lower than required in terms of technology. And this is a weakness that we've identified and we seek to address. Well, budgets allow, but we want to make an effort, even over and above the availability of finance, because this is an urgent matter. This is 2024. It's no longer, 19 wara. It's 2024. And I think it's important that even SAPS come of age in terms of modernization, which is part of professionalization, which our country requires at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. The second supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Lakis.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, what you're answering of the previous question, you've actually kind of covered me on the modernization of the management of your dockets in the police. I'm glad that you have now actually considered it, considering the loss of dockets in your department. So what we will maybe like to see is the implementation and the timeframes of it, so that we understand when will you start with it, when will you finish your engagement with the management, so that it moves in that fashion. But I think you've covered me on the management of the docket system and moving to new technology.
The Honorable Minister.
What I can say is that it's why. It's not that we haven't started. We have already started. But when you interview, you discuss intensely with the officials as they brief you that they have started. You want to get a sense of the coverage in the whole country. And their response is that, yes, we are doing this, but it looks like it is slow, because they say by the time they get to the next province, some of their technology would have expired or would have lost impact. And therefore, we need to change the approach such that we don't experience such things. But it's not like there is nothing. They are working. What is remaining is pace and quality, so that we really have a sense that in the whole country, in terms of technology, we're at 60% by the whole country, or we're at 70% just on dockets. At the moment, it's not exactly the case. Thank you.
Thank you. The third supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Mailola.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, ge o ka tsitsinkela, ebile wa kwishisha hore go katwa ga basadi le bana ke tlhoba boroko go rena. Go timelela ga di-docket ka dikgorong tsa sepodisa ke selo seo re seng ra swanela gore re ka se dumelele. Minister, e ka ba ke mokgwa ofe ebile wa maleba ebile o nepagetseng o tlong o šomišwa go dira gore di-docket ga di timelele ka kantorong tsa sepodisa. E ka be maphodisa a rena ao a swanetšeng gore a re šireletse ba utswetšwa. How can you steal from the police station? Are our police the ones that are stealing the dockets, or do we have an issue? Ke a leboga.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Okunye mhlonishwa, bengingofa nje lapha nalapha. Ngingakutholi kahle ukuthi uthini. Ngenxa yokuthi ngenxa yolimi. But to respond to you as honestly as possible, there are such cases. There are such cases and incidents of dockets, not really mysteriously as it would go in terms of the legend, disappearing. But it's part of corruption that we need to rid ourselves of and rid SAPS of, where there would be some connections outside and then dockets disappear. It's a serious issue because it affects the image, not only of SAPS, but of the country as a whole. And it's something that we're focusing on, firstly, to do what I'm saying, modernize so that it's not easy. Or if it doesn't even happen, because once you have modernized and you ensure that you are now electronic, it will be very difficult to experience such incidents. I think people are exploiting the fact that we've been very slow in making sure that we modernize, and that is the way of resolving. But magu khona la ngishiye khona mhlonishwa nganqofanga kahle khona usiyongithethelele.
Thank you. The last supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Ghana. Honorable Ghana, please Take your seat, yes. Honorable Mente.
Chair, Minister, uthi if unenda wayishile ucela uncediswa awumvumelanga uba simncedise. Ushiye laa ndawo ithi kutheni la madokethi angafakwa kwi-system through iscanner xa kucapturishwa ukuze angalahleki. Ushiye loo ndawo.
Okay, Honorable Mente. Mangimuzwe kahle uMinister, ngimzwile ungqongqoshe uthe uma ngabe lapha thathe khona angazwanga kahle ucela amthethelele. Bengithi usho njalo. So bengazwanga ukuthi uthi ucela ukuthi amncede ukuthi ayizwe futhi question. Angazi ngizwe kahle Minister.
Sizwele kahle kodwa empendulweni yami ephambili, before I responded to her, I did mention that to address what I was.
Honorable Mailola, sorry, Honorable Minister. I need you to listen to the response because it is particularly you who asked the question. Thank you. Over to you.
Yeah, I did respond in, when I did talk about this in terms of the steps that were taken to prevent a repeat or a repeated occurrence of losses, whether through stealing or corruption, or even in this case of the other question, where dockets get lost because of whatever happened in a vehicle. That we have started addressing that problem, and I did indicate in my response, which I can't see now, but yeah, registration and management of case dockets are handled according to instruction 3 and so on, and then all case dockets opened at the community service centers, which are in police stations, are inspected for correctness, and by the house manager, by the floor manager, and station commanders were instructed to ensure that all case dockets that are registered are discussed during station crime combating forum. So there are measures. For instance,
Honorable
the
Minister,
contents
unfortunately,
case
your
dockets are
extra
scanned.
1 minute that you were given has expired.
Sure, thanks.
The last supplementary question will be taken by Honorable Ghana.
Mtama still na cancer. What up the tree? When the minister will translate, loko bla bla magale ya doget. And tiso ilo. If I know you bla bla ntis. Maphorisa wa xavisa tidoket. Let's not beat around the bush. It is the police that are selling the dockets. What are you going to do to the policemen and women who are selling dockets and claim that the dockets have been stolen?
The Honorable Minister.
Any policeman or woman, I'm now specific, who gets known or when we find out that this has happened, they get charged. It's not something that is going to happen. It's something that is happening. This is one of the offenses that a policeman or a policewoman can do to make a docket disappear. People have been charged and they've lost their jobs. And I can indicate to you that just from January to now, more than 30 police officers have lost their jobs via corruption related. I can't say whether it involved dockets, but it's various offenses by police so I'm indicating that steps are being taken. Each time there is something, there is a misdemeanor that happens, because we are saying police are a law enforcement agent, and individual members must take the responsibility of making sure they protect. By the way, that statement that you are making, that police sell, is not necessarily true. It would be a specific policeman or woman who would do that. And they are very limited in number, very, very limited in number. But Yes, it's not police in general. It would be that particular person at that time. I'm trying to say, the connotation of the statement shouldn't be read as saying, police, you'll find them selling in the street. It doesn't happen that. It's particular incidents at a given moment. And each time it happens, we act on them. And we will continue to act on them. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the last supplementary question. Question number 21 has been asked by Honorable Sokanyile to the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. The G20 is the premier forum for global economic cooperation.
Honorable Minister, can you maybe come closer to the mic, or if you don't mind, you can sit and thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. The G20 is the premier forum for global economic cooperation, whose members, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, represent around 85% of the global GDP, 75% of the global exports, and 60% of the global population. In this regard, our presidency of the G20 places South Africa in a strategic position to lobby for policy gains within this influential international platform that will benefit our country, region, and the continent. Among the areas we will focus on in this regard are promote policies that ensure economic benefits for South Africans, in particular the economically marginalized members of our society, pushing reforms for a global debt architecture to ensure debt crises do not undermine the realization of the SDGs in South Africa, our sub-region, and the continent. Mobilize financing to close development financing gap, which is currently estimated at USD 4.2 trillion annually, up from USD 2.5 trillion before the COVID-19 pandemic. Curbing illicit financial flows, the IFFs have contributed a great deal in reversing and delaying the continent's drive towards achieving Agenda 2063 and SDG targets. Every year, approximately 88.6 billion US is lost from the continent due to the IFFs. Extension of the implementation of the debt service suspension initiative by the G20 is one of the unfulfilled initiatives that could unlock Africa's fiscal constraints. Africa stands to benefit from the initiative as many of the countries on the continent service their debt interests instead of providing basic services such as health, housing, and jobs. Establishment of a cross-sectoral and innovative multi-sector stakeholder partnership to facilitate universal access to reliable and affordable energy. Strengthen skills development for the youth. In addition, South Africa's presidency of the G20 will have a strong focus on Africa and its development as highlighted by President Ramaphosa in his 2020 SONA. South Africa will use the opportunity presented by its presidency of the G20 platform to advance priorities for the AU Agenda 2063, working closely with the African Union, including its RECs, which is also a member of the G20. In this regard, South Africa will advocate for improving trade facilitation and creating a conducive investment climate on the continent, particularly within the context of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. South Africa will also lobby the G20 to increase their investment and technical support on an ongoing infrastructure development projects across Africa, which are vital to deepening regional cooperation and integration. Lastly, South Africa's presidency of the G20 will further endeavor to continue highlighting the needs, aspirations, and ambitions of developing countries and will serve as a platform for engagement on issues that are critical to the countries of the Global South, and in particular, the African continent. This is a prime platform, Honorable House Chair, and will call the whole nation to rally behind these great initiatives aimed to resolve some of our developmental challenges as a country. I thank you.
Thank you. The first supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Nalumango.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Minister, considering the critical role the G20 plays in shaping global economic policies, how will Minister ensure that South Africa's presidency actively promotes the immediate economic interest of all African nations, as well as challenges like sustainable development, equitable trade practices, and investment in infrastructure? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. We have already started the process to integrate our program of the G20. We have done so in the recently held SADC summit, where we advocated for issues related to the critical minerals, the industrialization of the region, increasing of trade amongst the regional players in SADC, where it was found that in the region was still trading at about 21%. And if we can work more with our development finance partners, we can be able to increase. We've also engaged on issues related to one-stop border post in the region, which is now expanded to economic corridors, which we believe with this integration, it will advance our agenda in the G20 for the region to work together to be inclusive in terms of regional trade, to be inclusive in terms of regional integration, and also in us advocating for the critical minerals that are abundant in our region and also in the African continent as a whole. I thank you.
Thank you. The second supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Powell.
Chairperson, the question will be asked by Honorable Smith.
Honorable Smith.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Minister, South Africa is the only African country in the G20 and will be the first on the continent to host its summit in 2025. The G20 summit has always served as a platform where geopolitical conflicts are raised and deliberated on, particularly those which threaten the regional stability of member states. Given the Russian Federation's continued involvement in destabilization efforts and attacks on African democracy by means of the Wagner Group and Africa Corps, most recently in the civil war in Sudan, will the minister address this with Russian President Vladimir Putin, and how will he take up the nefarious intentions of Russia's presence in Africa as a means to stifle democracy and incite conflict and crimes against humanity? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, House Chair. South Africa's policy is very clear in terms of regional peace and stability and advocating for human rights. And we do so irrespective of which country, whether from whichever is the north or from the south. And we will not be specifically targeting any country. We will participate in the G20 and will invite all G20 partners to participate. And Russia is part of the G20. They will be invited to participate in our country through the platform of the G20, which they've always participated in. We will continue to advocate for regional integration. We will continue to advocate for preferential financial stability, which is preferential and favorable to developing countries. We will continue, Chairperson, to use the G20 platform as a premium platform to advocate for the development of the African continent, as I've already said, with regards to issues related to debt structuring for the benefit of the continent, because most of the countries in the continent find themselves having to pay their debt instead of dealing with issues of service delivery. So all these issues South Africa will advocate for, and we will continue to play our role in regional peace and stability in the African continent, across the continent, through our platform in SADC and through our platform in the AU through Agenda 2063, with an agenda to silence the guns, irrespective of where the guns come from. Thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you. The third supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Muntwedi.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Minister, as the president of G20 in 2025, South Africa will have a rare opportunity to drive will have a real opportunity to drive reforms in some key multilateral institutions. And indeed, you mentioned what are some of those reforms that you intend to drive. Now, with specific reference to the IMF and the World Bank, who are known for driving structural adjustment programs which severely inhibit the capacity of developing economies to drive major social reform programs. There are no clear accountability structures to hold these institutions to account. Now, what reforms, Minister, in relation to the IMF specifically, will the South African presidency in the G20 seek to achieve in 2025? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, House Chair. South Africa continues to play its role in advocating for reform of multilateral institutions, including the UN Security Council, the IMF, and other global financial institutions, where South Africa is a member. And you will remember that even during the COVID-19 period, we played a driving role for the African continent to reform in the manner in which our vaccine was allocated, including for the continent itself. And even with the IMF, when it ended up providing loans to the African continent, we advocated for conditions-free loan. This is our role to champion for such kind of financial institutions to provide preferential financial instruments that are favorable to the development of the African continent. And as I've said already, debt structuring is also a key feature of this agenda, because most of the money in the African continent end up only being used to pay for debts instead of development, service delivery, and so forth. So this is an agenda South Africa will continue to advocate for when we are at the excellence of the G20 to drive an agenda to develop our continent and also to feed into Agenda 2063, but also to enhance the Africa Free Trade Area. As I've said, we have already started with the recently held SADC Summit, because we see this platform of G20, not just for ourselves as South Africa, but for the continent as a whole. It must help us to enhance regional integration. It must help us to enhance, to find favorable financial instruments, and also to help us to industrialize our country, including for beneficiation in the continent through the critical minerals that DMR is spearheading in our country. Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. The last supplementary question will be asked by Honorable Letlape.
Thank you, Chair. To the Honorable Minister, low-cost energy is the bloodline of any economy. We have moved from Eskom being the lowest cost producing utility in the world and being a global electrical company of that year to exporting our black gold and importing loans we cannot afford from G20 countries. What will you do to facilitate, because all the things that we talk about without low cost accessible energy is just a catastrophe. We've had 4 deaths because people are illegally connected. What will you do to ensure that the G20 partners that we give our precious coal to produce low cost energy in their countries will give us favorable rates and loans for the greenness that we seek at the expense of being
Honorable Letlape, your time has expired. Honorable Minister.
Yeah, thank you, House Chairperson. Indeed, one of the tracks of the G20 is to deal with the issues of finance for development, including the just transition into the low carbon emissions. It is part of the program to find such favorable rates that will enable us to continue to generate much needed energy for our economy in a more favorable and less expensive way. And this hosting of the G20 give us a platform to engage with developmental finance institutions, to also engage with the people of the world and those developed countries to provide with us such such financial instruments that will enable us to finance our migration into the green economy in a manner that is less expensive and in a manner that is sustainable, but also in a manner that enables us to take our people as we transition, so that we don't leave our peoples and their skills behind, but we move with them, and also the electricity is sustainable and it's what the economy can afford. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable members, the time allocated for questions has expired. Outstanding replies received will be printed in Hansard. But before honorable members stand, I would like to bring to your attention a matter that I've made a ruling on that took place on the 23rd July 2024. During the debate on vote 1, the presidency, a point of order was raised by Honorable Matafa regarding the remarks that were made by Honorable Ndlozi about the mental health and or status of the president. Honorable Ndlozi had said that when engaging with the president, the House, and I quote, may be dealing with psychosis, whose symptoms are delusions and illusions. But our candidate tonight truly believes in the delusions that he gives us. We have passed the stage of fiction and we are dealing with mental illness. I ruled that Honorable Ndlozi should withdraw the remarks, whereupon the former member of the House, Honorable Shibambu, rose on a point of order and argued that the word schizophrenia had been upheld as not being unparliamentary. Based on legal advice and previous rulings by presiding officers in the House, I then ruled that I would study the Hansard and revert to the House with the considering ruling. Having had the opportunity to study the Hansard, I rule as follows. Section 58(1)(a) of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, 1996, as well as the National Assembly Rule 63(1), state that cabinet members, deputy ministers, and members of the National Assembly have freedom of speech in the Assembly and in its committees, subject to its rules and orders. National Assembly Rule 84 states that no member may use offensive, abusive, insulting, disrespectful, unbecoming, and unparliamentary words or language, nor offensive, unbecoming, or threatening gestures. In terms of National Assembly Rule 2F and G, directives and guidelines of the Rules Committee and rulings by the Speaker and other presiding officers are part of the sources of authority of the National Assembly. Honorable members, a close reading of the Hansard reveals that Honorable Ndlozi directed his remarks at the President, whom he referred to as the sitting President. It is also evident that the Hansard that Honorable Ndlozi contravened National Assembly Rule 84, as he made an abusive, insulting, disrespectful, unbecoming, and unparliamentary pronouncement on his purported diagnosis of the President's mental health, particularly when he said, and I quote, we may be dealing with psychosis whose symptoms are delusion and illusion, but our candidate tonight truly believes in the delusion that he gives us. We have passed the stage of fiction and we are dealing with mental illness. Let me also state that Honorable Shibambu's submission that the word schizophrenia had been upheld has not been unparliamentary based on legal advice and previous ruling by presiding officers in the House and substantiated. Instead, on the 2nd December 2020, a ruling was made in the House that it was unparliamentary to refer to another member as having a form of mental illness. Honorable members, I am advised that Honorable Ndlozi is on the platform, has joined on the platform. Honorable Ndlozi's remarks went beyond the privilege granted to members in terms of Section 58(1)A of the Constitution and the National Assembly Rule 63(1), because that privilege is subjected to the Assembly's rules and orders. The House imposes the restriction upon itself to, among others, ensure the orderly conduct of proceedings in determining whether a remark is parliamentary or not. The presiding officer takes into consideration inter alia the context and tone of a particular remark or inference. Rule 84 has been further elucidated that years of establishment practice and convention. Honorable Ndlozi. Honorable Ndlozi. Honorable Ndlozi.
Yes, House Chairperson, I am all ears.
Okay. Please withdraw your remarks that when engaging with the president in the House, we may be dealing with someone suffering from psychosis or mental illness.
Honorable Chairperson, I respectfully reserve my
Point
right
of order,
to.
House Chair.
Where's the point of order?
We request that Honorable Ndlozi should show his face on the platform.
Yes. What rule is that? Which rule? Which rule is that? Please, honorable members, please. I have allowed Honorable Ndlozi to speak, and Honorable Ndlozi is on the platform now. I am the presiding officer. Do not mind other people who will be speaking. I will rule on it. If I want Honorable Ndlozi to show his face, I will do so. But Honorable Ndlozi, please proceed.
Am I audible, House Chair?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes, I respectfully reserve my right to challenge the ruling at the Rules Committee. I think that it is a bad reading of what I had said. And the operative word, quite frankly, is the coordinate conjunction may. So I really think that it is not a correct reading, and reserve my right to challenge it through the parliamentary process with the Rules Committee. I accordingly refuse to withdraw. Thank
Honorable
you very much.
Ndlozi, as you may state that you reserve your right to challenge the ruling, but as the House Chair now, my ruling is that you withdraw from that, then you will challenge it later if you want to do the processes of challenging it. But I am now, as the presiding officer say, that you must withdraw from what I have stated in the ruling. Honorable Ndlozi?
House Chairperson, I'm saying that I reserve my right to challenge the ruling
So
at
you
the
don't
Rules
want to
Committee.
adhere to the ruling of the presiding officer?
I think that the ruling
I'm
must be
questioning you
challenged.
because I will ask ICT to remove you from the platform.
House Chairperson, I think that it must be challenged. It's a wrong ruling.
Are you challenging that? ICT,
Yes.
please remove
Yes.
Honorable Ndlozi from the platform. Order, honorable members. I request members to stand and wait for the chair and the mice to leave the chamber. That concludes the business of the day and the House is adjourned.
Long live Madam Speaker.